All right, it's 7:30. Let's open the meeting. I'd like to call December 16th, 2021 meeting to order, 7:30. Can I get a roll call, Amy, please?
Yes. Mr. Fuller? Mr. DeLomo? Mr. Manel? Mr. Van Wagner? Mr. Ashkenazi? Mrs. Beal?
Here.
Mr. Mamie? Mr. Mamie?
Oh,
Mrs.
Mr.
Teller-
Mamie.
Mrs.
He's just
Tellerico?
muted.
I'm here.
Jack,
Mr.
Mamie, could you please unmute?
Mr. DeGennaro? Mr. Puglielli? Chairman Worrell?
Here. All right, salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Chairman's statement. This notice required in the open public meeting law of this meeting has been satisfied. A copy of the notice has been sent to the Asbury Park Press and to the Coaster and filed in the office of the Township on July 16, 2021. It is board policy that no new cases will be started after 10 p.m. No new testimony will be taken after 10:30 p.m. In addition, the applicants will be limited to 45 minutes of testimony. Also, all meetings are being videotaped and audio taped and shown on the Township of Ocean Cable Channel 22 and Verizon Bios Channel 77. So I need a minutes of approval. Amy sent out to all the board members for November 18th, 2021. I need a motion to approve those minutes.
I move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Beal. I need a second.
I could second.
Thank you. Do we need to call a roll on that, Amy?
Yes.
Okay.
Mrs. Beal?
Yes.
Mr. Mamie?
Yes.
Mrs. Tallarico?
Yes.
And Chairman Worrell?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, resolutions to memorialize. I'll turn it over to Vice Chair Beal and let her take it from there.
Okay, the following resolution, memorializations, D-Dip Automotive Group, Block 43, Lot 1, 2, and 3, 807 Highway 35, Ocean, bulk variance approval, use variance approval, site plan approval. David Catton, Block 22, Lot 26, 284 Roosevelt Avenue, Oakhurst, bulk variance approval, certification of use approval. Isaac and Margot Shalom, Block 61.05, Lot 12, 515 Wildwood Road, West Allenhurst, variance approval. Anthony Russo, Block 138, Lot 52.01, 900 Roosevelt Avenue, Ocean, bulk variance approval. Judith Omac Ross, Block 20.01, Lot 5, 120 Hall Avenue, Oakhurst, bulk variance approval.
Thank you. Case is carried. You want to continue?
Wait. We need to vote on those.
I'm sorry, I need a motion. Sorry, I need a roll call.
Well, no, we just read them, right?
Yes,
So we need some, I assume Shawanda is moving them, right? Or-
moving.
Yes, I move.
Motion.
And we need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, now we need Amy. And then all the votes, all these people were here last, all four people were here last month.
Yes.
That was a positive statement. I knew
Oh,
that.
yes.
So they can all vote. Go ahead.
Okay.
We can take one vote, that's all.
Mrs. Beal?
Yes.
Mr. Mamie?
Yes.
Mrs. Tallarico?
Yes.
And Chairman Worrell?
Yes. All right, we can roll into cases carried to January 20, 2022.
I would ask that the board make a motion regarding the meetings going through July virtually.
I move that we host our meetings going forward through the July meeting virtually on Zoom.
I'll second that.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mrs. Tallarico,
Yes.
and Chairman Worrell.
Yes. All right, Ms. Beal, can you read the cases carried to January 2022?
Yes, Seaview Corporate Park LTD, Block 149.01, Lot 1.01, 2603, Route 66 in Ocean. Sean Realty LLC, Block 141, Lot 3, 2415 Asbury Avenue, Ocean. Cordova Ocean LLC, Block 205, Lot 2 and 3, 1309 Herbert Avenue, 1312 Allenhurst Avenue in Ocean. Rebecca Weiner, Block 131, Lot 9, 1309 Wickapeco Avenue, Ocean. 335 Roosevelt Avenue LLC, Block 19, Lot 3, 335 Roosevelt Avenue in Ocean. Carol Doyle, Block 122, Lot 7, 18 Wanamassa Point Road in Ocean.
All of those cases will be carried to the meeting of January 20th, 2022 without further notice or publication to the public. They'll just be continued. I believe.
Mr. Chairman and Mr.
Yeah, case
Steinberg,
number 1, right. Daniel.
going to have to be
Aurora.
edited.
Right, so Daniel Soror, you are requesting, Mr. Farber, that the matter be carried to the meeting of January 20, 2022, without further
That
notice.
is
Is that correct?
Yes, and that, for the record, is Daniel Soror, Block 46, Lot 10, 107 Parker Avenue in Ocean.
All right, we need an extension of time through that meeting. We need
I
that
am
on the
in
record.
Washington, D.C. I'll sign the
No, we need
form
it.
on Monday or Tuesday.
That's fine, but just on the record, you're going to extend the time, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and then you'll send something in next week, or Amy will get you the form sent over to your office. So that matter will be carried to the meeting of January 22, January 20th, 2022, without further public notice or any publication. If, Mr. Chairman, if you can skip to the number 7 on our agenda, so Aurora Land Development. I believe Mr. McCumber is here.
I am,
Correct.
Mr. Steinberg. How are you?
Good. Go ahead, and I'll do my thing, you do your
Why
thing.
don't you want to do your things first, Mr. Steinberg? Go right ahead.
All right. We had spoken earlier today, and there's a problem with one of your witnesses being ill. And again, of course, we only have 4 members here tonight. So you've asked that you want to carry it to the meeting of January 20, 2022 without further public notice. And by that time, hopefully obtain a date and work out a special meeting, which can be announced that night.
Yes.
I have reviewed the notices sent and the proofs of service, and I find all to be in order so that this board can take jurisdiction of this application and can proceed on the next scheduled date.
I really appreciate it, members of the board, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Steinberg. And just in terms of asking for a special meeting, is there a procedure or a protocol to go through to request that? Should I put that request in writing, or how would you like me to proceed with that?
You have to call Ron and beg.
Just call Ron and beg. Okay, well, I'm used to that. I'll do that. That's not a problem. Okay.
He'll figure that out. But at this point, we've accepted jurisdiction, services appropriate and adequate. And the matter of Aurora Land Development, Block 22, Lot 85 and 85.01, 280 Norwood Avenue, Ocean, will be carried to the meeting of January 20, 2022, without any further public notice or need for any further publication.
Thank you, Mr. Steinberg. Thank you, members of the board. I appreciate it. And I will call Ron tomorrow morning.
Okay, Armin, have a good holiday.
You too, Mark. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, which brings us to case number 2, Kenneth Greenstein. Block.
I think we're just gonna wait a little while and see if we get another board member.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. DeLomo had given me a text that he'll be logging in soon. So we'll have the 5. We'll have to come back to Mr. Farber, but as soon as he logs in, we'll come, and that case is completed, we'll come back to Mr. Farber.
Thank you very much.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, next case number 3, Oren Linder, Block 40.03, Lot 3, 608 Deal Road, Ocean, New Jersey. This is a zone R3. This is an application for an extension of the August 19th, 2021 approval. We have the attorney tonight, Thomas Hirsch, in-house. Mr. Hirsch? No, Mr. Hirsch. Is Mr. Linder here?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, is Mr. Hirsch coming tonight?
Yes, sir, and I think I saw a Tom on one of the windows. I'm not sure.
All right.
Maybe he's trying to unmute himself, I'm not sure. Should I call him on his personal cell phone?
Yeah, if you can, that would be great.
I'm doing it right now.
All right. Hello?
So just saw a glimpse of Mr. Hirsch going by.
You, yes, you did.
Okay, so he's in the house.
Very
In the
good.
house.
There we go.
Sorry, my fault.
Thank you.
Sorry. Good evening. Sorry.
Good evening,
We had a little
Mr.
technical difficulty there.
All right, Mr. Hirsch, you're up for Mr. Linder's case has been announced. And you have the
representing
floor.
Mr.
You have the floor, sir.
All right, thank you. Yeah, this obviously is not a formal public hearing application. There's no notice or anything. This is really an administrative issue for the board concerning an extension of a deadline, if you will, a time frame on the board's resolution that had approved the application to construct a retaining wall in the rear of Mr. Linder's property. The only variance at the time was a height variance for the fence on top of the retaining wall. When the application was presented, there, the engineer was there and also the builder, Mike Acchiavilli. Any event, they had a design for a wall at that time, which showed essentially wooden panels, put in place with steel structured and wooden panels going around. So during the discussions with the board and the neighbor, one of the neighbors, questions were asked, well, could it be something that would be more sustainable essentially than wood? I think Mike had testified it would probably be good for 40 years, that type of material. It's treated and what have you. However, at the end of the meeting, it was agreed that Mike, the builder, would, he would review other options. There was some talk about using steel panels instead of wood. So there was going to be, it was clearly understood, there was going to be some additional work in terms of design and getting a final design to the board with structural calculations, et cetera. So when the board adopted the resolution approving it, and before the resolution, towards the end of the meeting, there was some discussion, well, when can we expect it to be constructed? And there was, I think, a few things thrown around, and we ended up, don't ask me exactly who came up with it, but we ended up with a December 1 date for the wall. In the resolution, and I think everybody kind of felt that this was still kind of a work in progress, if you will. The board indicated that the work would be completed by, I'm just looking at the resolution, December 1, 2021, subject only to any adjustments in timeframes to be authorized by the board engineer on submission of good cause. I think the board always intended that there might have to be some adjustments with the design of the wall, the ultimate determination of materials. So that's sort of, I thought, administratively how the board wanted to handle. I'm prepared tonight to have two witnesses, builder and the engineer, go through the timeline as to why we are where we are. But basically, there were plans submitted, there's requests for revisions, additional information that went back and forth, which I'll give you specific dates on this, but I'm trying to give you an overview. Through the months of, starting in September and October, a structural engineer was retained, and rather quickly they did a design for the wall. Most of the submissions were done in the beginning of October. We had an email from Amy just mentioning that, following up with me on the affidavit of publication and noting that a plan for the wall would have to be in within 30 days of September 9th. I think that was the date the resolution may have been adopted. That would have been around October 8th, or give or take a day. And plans were in fact filed before then. They weren't deemed to be fully compliant. And so there was some back and forth with the final plan being submitted on October 12th. And this is not by way of criticism. It took some time for review. It was over 2 weeks before that plan was reviewed. And then there was some comments by the board engineer when he issued his report. And after that, Mr. Kirk suggested a meeting at Town Hall with the CME, your engineer, Mr. Linder's engineer. I wasn't directly involved in that request. This was between the engineer, the architect, Mr. Kirk. So they held that meeting, and we'll provide the testimony, but that essentially there was two minor revisions to the plan that had been submitted on October 12th. The plan was revised and submitted the next day. That meeting was, I think, November 8th. They were submitted the next day, November 9th, and November 10th, the board engineer submitted his report approving the design of the wall. So we were now at November 10th. Within 3 or 4 days, the building permit was then requested. The building permit was issued on December 7th. So when the board engineer issued his report approving the wall, he said in his report that any time extension request is to be made in writing for review and approval by our office. So in November, I received a email from the zoning officer saying if the wall wasn't going to be complete by December 1, I would need to request an extension before that time. And within a few days of that, or a couple of days, on November 18th, I submitted that request on behalf of the client requesting an extension. And as the correspondence between me and your zoning officer indicated, it was going to go to the board engineer per the resolution in his letter, for approval. That's what I thought was the process. Ultimately, I don't know, a week or two later, we got the response simply from the board engineer saying we should go before the board and explain this. So that's how we got here. So that's why we're in front of the board instead of just getting administrative approval through the engineer. So I thought that it was pretty clear based on the issuance of the building permit, which had not been issued at that time, obviously, it's only been issued since December 7th, the approval by the board engineer on November 10th, that it was pretty clear wall wasn't going to be completed by December 1st. We provided information at that time when I was requesting extension that when the board engineer approved the wall, the steel was ordered, and we had a letter we attached to our request from Mastercraft Iron saying they had purchased the steel and they had received it, and It then had to be sent out for fabrication, which would take 3 to 4 weeks under today's circumstances. So with all that information, that's why we were requesting an extension beyond December 1st. So now, as I said, I'm prepared to have, I think is Mike on? Just looking.
This is,
Yes,
okay,
Mike's
we're not
here.
at a we're not at a public hearing. And
Yes,
the board
exactly.
doesn't have jurisdiction to change the condition without public notice. However, the condition is not that the board makes the decision, it's that Ben makes the decision, which he's sort of throwing to us for advice. So you're appropriately here, and it'll be Ben's decision. The problem with this application, was it 7 years, 6 years? Something like that, that this has been going on and nothing gets done.
Well, if I could have been prepared, Mark, which I didn't want to have to do, to go back and give you the full record of the various delays over 3 or 4 years, some perhaps being the client's fault and some being on the town's fault for delays. But I don't see that's the point of this. We came in with the application, we were heard, this is the resolution we're dealing with in the time frame on this. Now, to bring that up, which is unfortunate, but we're going to bring that up. Thing is, what is the homeowner, like any other homeowner, supposed to do? He hires a builder, he hires an engineer, and when I go through this list, you'll see everything they did in a timely basis over the last 3 months to get these plans approved. He pays his professionals. He's not a wall designer. He can't schedule a purchase of steel. That's what he hires these people to do. So my only point being that to the extent there's some suggestion that it is the applicant that is somehow stalling or being negligent, one, there is no point for him to do that. Secondly, all these activities have been between the builder, his engineer, Mr. Lieber, Mr. Kirk, and the board engineer, which is what everybody anticipated it would be. So Mr. Linder is doing nothing to delay, stall, and there's no reason or benefit to him. And as you'll see, if we're going to go through all the facts, he has spent substantial money. They have a schedule as to when they will be, putting this in, which we will provide to you in a few moments. And that's where we're at. So we're talking about this case. I don't want to argue stuff from 4 years ago.
What's the schedule that you propose?
Well, do you want me to give it to you, or do you want our builder to give it to you, whoever's going to call as a witness? I realize this is not a public hearing and we don't necessarily have to swear witnesses. I'll do whatever you want. If you want me to read what I've been provided, I'll read it to you.
Mr. Hirsch, this is the chairman. I have a concern, and here it is. I want to get this thing resolved. Now we're coming into the bad weather, the winter months, the freezing ground. And I'm not saying it's your fault, but is the steel, raw materials are hard to get. It could be a delay in getting steel. I want to ask Mr. Steinberg, what does this board have at its disposal that we could work something out here to enforce that this project's done at a certain date, not a guessing date, but a firm date?
I guess maybe the applicant has to put his money where his mouth is and post a bond.
This is, look, we're going to do what you want us to do, but this has been going
on.
I don't want to hear it. Well, Mark, so what? It's been going on what? Not this case, not the case I've been handling. This is the application I presented on behalf of this client on March 19th.
So put your money where your mouth is and post a cash bond, and that'll be refunded to you when you finish. Just show us something that you have the intention of completing this.
Well, if you let me present the testimony, that's exactly what I'm here to do. And if you want me to read what the schedule was, as I said, the steel has already been purchased. The steel is at Mastercraft waiting to be delivered. It's supposed to be delivered to the site on Tuesday. That's done. There's already been a fence on the property removed and a construction fence put up. The plan right now is this Tuesday or Wednesday, they will be digging and drilling left and right to the existing retaining wall. On Thursday, they'll make arrangements for an inspection. If it's approved, on Monday after Christmas, they will pour concrete in the footings and will make forms in the walls. After New Year's, they'll take down the existing wall in sections and will be digging, drilling in those sections as they take down the wall. Following that, they will conduct another inspection. Then they will put in the new wall panels. After New Year, we expect to need, this is the builder, another 3 weeks of work. So he's estimating 5 to 6 weeks to complete all the work. That's the schedule. Mike is here to testify, make a statement. I realize we're not in a typical formal hearing. That's the schedule he's got. So no one wants to delay this. There's nothing to be gained by the homeowner not to be building it. He wants it done with as much as anybody. And if I went through all the meetings that were held at town to agree on the design of the wall, I mean, you'll see that nobody has sat back and done nothing over the last few months. It's taken a while to decide on the wall. It's no longer a wood wall. It's now with steel I-beams and then concrete poured in slabs across the wall, which I think Ron may have even spoken to the builder about as being maybe the concrete being, a better option than the wood. So there was all this give and take, these discussions, and that's where we're at now, which we're asking the board. As I said, I don't think the board ever intended us to be here. It was just going to be fine. There may be needs for extensions because there's going to be a new design, new materials. So it'll go through the board engineer. So fine, he's asking for the board's input. So we're here.
I'll ask a question.
Go ahead.
Yes.
How many times has this case come to this board? I'm a new board member, so I'm not aware.
My
It's come to the-
understanding,
Go ahead.
so you want me to answer?
No, go
My
ahead.
understanding, although I was not involved, there was an application filed by Mr. Linder. I believe he may have represented himself. I don't know. There was, I believe, one public hearing, and it was determined that he didn't have sufficient information, something to that effect, with the plan. So they said, we can't rule on this, so we're going to carry it. Again, I was not involved, so I can't give you firsthand information. Then
That was 3 or 4 years ago, right?
something like that.
About
Yeah.
3 years ago.
Something like
Okay, so over the 7 years, it's only been maybe.
No, not
2 or
7.
3 times.
3 or
It-
4.
It's
that
been-
was the only other app. That was the only time it was before the board.
And it was 4
And
years.
then
4
Then
years.
there was a series of plans submitted over and over again, different agreements, disagreements between engineers, but I won't get into all of that because I don't know that it gets us anywhere.
I mean, I'm just trying to understand because it seems like there's a lot of frustration involving,
Yes, there is.
There is. The time
You're right,
frame. Yeah. So I'm just trying to understand how we can resolve this.
No, you're right.
And-
I appreciate that. There has been a lot of frustration on both sides on this.
And can we hear some input from our engineer? Ben?
Yeah.
You're from, what are we doing with this?
Well, so I'd like to say that I basically you took the words out of my mouth is that the reason I asked the applicant to come back to the board was to receive some input from the board. This has been going on for 4 years. I've only been involved for a few months, so I don't know all the history. However, at the last meeting, it was discussed. It was in the resolution that it was to be done by December 1st. And to my knowledge, no construction on the wall has been done to date. So I think that Mr. Steinberg's recommendation is in line with what I was going to recommend is posting a bond for the work so that we can ensure that it gets done and that the neighbor behind the property behind the wall is not negatively impacted any further than what they already have been.
Yeah,
So,
as
Mr.
I
Hurst,
said,
would you-
obviously there was no construction. They got a construction permit December 7th after submitting it 3 weeks ago. So, I'm only saying there is reasons why, and it's not unusual, we all know this in zoning and construction cases, there are delays not only in the building side nowadays, but just getting approvals. Your office takes 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get something back. It's the normal course. You know, the building department takes those weeks. It's the normal course. These aren't criticisms, it's just the time frames that happen. You know,
I don't
we had to
disagree.
start with a whole new design on this wall, remember, get a structural engineer retained. So it just took some time, is all I'm saying. That's all.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the timeline and what you said there. But being that this applicant has come before the board in years past, and it has taken this amount of time to get where we are, I think that it would be appropriate in this case for a bond to be posted.
Mr. Hirsch, would you agree to a bond and a drop dead date of March 1st, and then you will get your money back if it's completed by March 1st?
Is Mike here? Mike, are you on? Yeah, Mike, can you hear us?
Yes.
He's the builder, I'm sorry. Mike,
Yes,
okay, they were suggesting, I don't know if you heard, if you were on.
I did.
March 1, I know, I think you were looking at 5-6 weeks, something like that. I mean, depending, you know, we don't get a blizzard or something, but, you know, which seems unlikely with this weather. Well, you know, you're the one doing the work, so what's the timeline to you?
Just like you mentioned.
All right, so you had roughly, what, 5 to 6 weeks, you said? So we're at
They're giving you 10
January,
weeks.
February. Yeah, so March 1 would be more, should be more than enough for you, right?
It's more than enough.
That's almost 2 months.
Tom and everyone else, good evening to everybody else, especially you, Ron.
Hey, I'm being quiet and letting you go.
I know you are. But the steel was ordered over 4 weeks ago. It arrived about a week ago to Mastercraft. And as you mentioned, we cannot start any work till there is a building permit obtained. There was close to $11,000, $10,800 worth of steel purchased and paid for by Mr. Linder already. And I mean, everything is moving forward, so.
Okay, so can we, to try to wrap this thing up so we can have other applications this evening, the engineer, the attorney, everyone has agreed that putting up a bond, that would be a number set by Mr. Matlack, okay, for if this to be completed by March 1st, you know, and Mark, you could set up the agreement, and with Mr. Hirsch, we wouldn't be involved in that way. It would have to be paid by next, I guess, Thursday prior to Christmas, and move forward from there. At least the board would know, our office would know, the world would know that by March 1st of 2022, the job is completed. We all go on our merry way from that, and we move on to other applications. Is that reasonable?
Mike, does March 1st take into account any contingent time for bad weather?
10 weeks.
It is. I mean, maybe it's not my business to say. Yes, definitely it's more than enough time. I don't see that being needed. But if the board would consider, if I may put my 2 cents in, there is many fees that need to be paid by Linder. And Ron knows he's a friend of mine. I'm not looking for his bad interest or best interest. It's the idea is to finish this. For him to put more money out of pocket for a bond and still pay for this wall going up, I just think that there's got to be some kind of happy medium here.
But then he gets his money back on March 2nd or the next council meeting thereafter. I
He
mean,
can pay everybody off from that. Mhm.
He doesn't get his money back if he's paying a premium on a bond. I mean, if he's.
No,
if
we're
he
looking for a
posts
cash bond. We're looking for a cash bond.
I can't answer if he's got the financial ability to do that. I don't know what the amount of the bond's gonna be.
that would be up to your client as to cash or bond. Mike would be much more well-versed in the world of bonds than I am presently.
And how are you gonna determine the amount?
Ben Matlack would look at the scope of work and come up with a figure as to what it would take to complete the job. if Mr. Linder or Mike was not able to complete it by March 1.
Can I ask another question? So Mike, are you willing to finish the job without being paid in full by Mr. Linder? Because it sounds like he owes you money.
Correct. Well, he paid for the steel, so I mean, I gotta get paid also. I gotta pay the guys.
Because my fear is that's not going to get done because all these other factors are still involved about you being paid and the bond being put up. And I just want to make sure everything's going to be good for that March 1st.
I just think that maybe there is another option that I can put out there. Maybe that there should be some kind of agreement that by January 30th, there would be a bond put up if the wall is not done, to give them the opportunity to pay for the wall and try to wrap that up instead of getting wrapped up with putting more money out of pocket for a bond and then more reasons to back and forth, and this much bond is too much. What if the bond comes back at 3,000? It's one thing, but what if it comes back at 30,000?
Mike, then how about this? As an act of good faith, your client, or not your client, your friend puts up $50,000 cash bond as a good faith effort for the completion of this project by March 1. Ben doesn't have to get along. Ben doesn't have to get involved with the estimation. Okay.
It's fine by March 1st.
But it's done by March 1st, $50,000 cash bond by Christmas Eve. Deposit.
Christmas Eve, that's not.
Well, you can always borrow money from you.
And then I gotta borrow it from you.
Oh yeah. I'm just saying that seems like.
Ron, I think that we should do something like that as by January 30th, because that gives them a chance to push and try to finish this wall and not have to put the bond up.
No, we need to have an end, and otherwise we'll be having this conversation 3 months.
Look, guys, we all need to have an end. As I said, what do you think is the motivation, respectfully, of Mr. Linder not to finish now that we're at this stage? You've got $11,000 worth of steel sitting there. What is the possible reasons? I mean, if you look at this resolution, okay, it's a resolution that put a date in it with a provision to ask the engineer for any extensions, which I can more than justify if I give you the testimony, why this couldn't be built by December 1. More than justify.
If everyone
so if that's the case, it would just be like any application or request for an extension. There's no provision in the law, of course, to require bonding for the improvement on the property. So I don't see what you think that leverage is getting you. The man has got to build this wall. He wants to build it. He's got the steel. He's got Mike. He gave you a schedule to complete it in 5 weeks, and yet you want to cost him this other money.
It's a good faith effort. I agree with the board engineer. I agree with the board attorney that there has to be an end to this 3-year project, whether you're involved or not.
But this doesn't get it done any quicker. It's just a matter of making the guy pay money. That's not going to accomplish a darn thing.
The town, okay, the board, everyone, the assurance that it will be done in a timely manner, which we haven't had over the last 3 years. That's fair.
No, that's not fair. So I don't want to go down that road. It's absolutely not fair.
Just for the record.
It's simply not the facts, but we're not going to open that record up. It's not the facts.
Okay, then you said it was going to get done. Then let's move forward.
I'm giving you all the information.
And everyone has the same concern. Ms. Talarico has the same concern. The board attorney everyone has the same concern to get the job done. So put the money up.
So fine, why don't we wait 3 weeks to see if he's actually put all this stuff in to say, gee, maybe we really don't need the bond.
Because we've been waiting 3 years.
No, that's not a logical answer. We're dealing with this project now. If the guy is 50% done with the wall in 3 weeks, then you're concerned, how do we know the wall's ever going to get built? It's kind of meaningless, isn't it?
How about
because
this?
There's the wall.
Okay, Tom, here's the deal. Put up the $50,000. No, look, please hear me out. Put up the $50,000. If at the end of a 3-week period, the work that you stated will be completed, then $25,000 of the $50,000 gets returned to Mr. Linder. That's a good faith effort. You're saying it's going to be done. There's no risk for you or your client if it's done in 3 weeks. If not, the $50,000 sits there until March 1. That's fair.
That's, well, you make it sound like $50,000 is $10.
Well, 3 years of my time is certainly worth $50,000.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to go down that road. Well, I mean, you know, I don't think Mr. Linder is actually even on. Mike, did you talk to?
I am.
Warren?
I am,
I heard he had
Mr.
some family problem. Is he on?
No,
I
he's
am.
on.
Yes, Mr. Hirsch, I'm on.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't see. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Warren, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you been listening to the dialogue with the board, Mike and myself?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You have the ability to post a cash bond for, say, 3 weeks. That would, assuming your schedule that I just read to the board earlier, if you're meet that schedule and not complete the wall, but you're where you said in 3 weeks, they would reduce that to $25,000. And of course, if the wall's finished, they would refund, you know, everything comes back to you. You're in a position to be able to do that? Financially.
$50,000 is
A
more
bond?
money than I have right now in my account. And on top of it, I try to stay quiet and listen to everything. You guys can hear me well, by the way?
Yes.
Yes.
You know, you're
I
on.
wanna, with all the respect to Mr. Matt, I'm sorry, I don't know his last name, the board engineer that recommended the bond. Please hear me. My intention is 100% to complete the wall as soon as possible. I've been working with Mike and Mr. Mark Lieber and everybody to finish it quickly. We started already we hired a fencing company to remove all the vinyl fence from the entire property on the front and the back in order to get excavating machine to come in. We put a temporary protection fence. I'm saying it again, I think nobody is mentioning it, that we got the permit only on December 7th. December 7th, and we ordered the material, the steel, a month before hands of the permit. It's good faith that we are going to finish normally we would order the material after we getting the permit, because what if we get denied and what if the permit was not issued with the building department, then I spend $11,000 to almost $12,000 on steel and I cannot use it. I am in a complied to finish the wall as soon as possible. We started the work already, and next week we will start the digging and everything, as Mr. Mike Akiashvili from Blue Creek Construction is here and testifying. And we already you know that we already removed the fence and we're already working to start the whole process. And again, the permit was received only December 7th. And also I received already 2 summonses from the township for that.
Great. There
All
are
right.
3 sentences outstanding. So look, I'm looking for an end, ladies and gentlemen. The engineer.
So are we.
Okay. The engineer has it. Okay. Mike from Blue Creek, what does a bond cost for $50,000?
They caught me off guard. I'm not sure. Maybe $7,000-8,000 if it gets approved.
Okay. So could you have, at that cost, could you help Mr. Linder to have the $50,000 bond in place for March 1? It's a
But
much.
you know, he's losing that $5,000. He's gone.
No, I didn't know that.
Bond and he's losing that $5,000. He's buying insurance. That's all it is.
Did not know that, Mike. If that's the case, I don't want him to lose money, but you have to provide.
That's the point I tried to make, Ron. It's not he gets money back. You pay for a bond, you got to pay the bonding company for posting it. They take a risk, so they.
I understood. I didn't know that it was that high of a cost, Tom.
Yeah.
But then
That's why I was suggesting, why don't we see if the schedule is kept in a few weeks?
Because we can't keep on going. This is the evening to lock this thing up.
I agree with you, but again, I received the permit only on December 7th.
Hey, let me call you right back.
They know that. They know that. Warren, they know that. I've already discussed that. I know you keep saying it's got to end, but I don't see how that ends it. we still got to build a wall. And
And then.
does he want to have to pay for the bond in 3 weeks? I mean, you see what I mean? Why would he risk that? It's just
Guys.
not making any common sense.
Can I add something? Hello?
Go ahead, Mike.
Can you guys, I wasn't sure you guys can hear me. Now, nobody's taking in fact that how long is it gonna take for him to get a bond? Even if he was, or you guys were okay with him losing $5,000, which we are not, which is very kind. By the time he reaches anybody, by the time he files the paperwork, by the time he fills the paperwork in the town, it's gonna take 3 months to get a bond.
Then go with the cash bond.
All right, I have to come to you tomorrow.
Yeah, sure. Good luck with that. Come on, guys. I mean, we got to get this over. We have other applications pending. The board needs to have your direction.
How do you guys come up with a $50,000 bond?
No, I threw that out there so that Ben Matlack would not have to go through the entire portion
So
of.
why don't we make it 15,000, Ron, to be fair to everybody and try to just get this moving without tying this up?
Okay,
Just looking for an incentive here. You know what I mean? It's
okay, then $25,000, which is half of what the original discussion. That's
well, no, that's the number you started with.
no.
It
Well,
wasn't-
I'm not going to
it
start
wasn't-
low, Tom. Okay, look, $25,000 up is half of what we're talking about. It gets everything cut to the chase.
And it gets fully refunded.
Fully refunded March 1st. Done.
Who's writing up this whole bond approvals now, and how long is that gonna take?
No, we're talking cash bond.
I
Yeah, cash
understand
bond
who's writing up a contract, what's the bond for, and all this paperwork. I
For
mean,
the
it's not-
completion of everything that's in the resolution, Mark Steinberg will write it up. He'll have it sometime tomorrow. We need to have the check by next week on Thursday, the 23rd, or Christmas Eve on 24th. And then we
No,
move on.
23rd, 24th is a legal holiday.
Okay, 23rd. And then we move on our merry little way as far as this goes. Got to be done by March 1st.
Tom, you're gonna be able to handle the paperworks and approving all that contract papers and so on?
Well, and that, yeah, Mark, I don't think it's overly complex. I mean, Mark and I can look at paperwork, on that. I mean, I think what it may be is using a letter of credit, which you can do, there's a bond law in lieu of a bond, perhaps. But I don't know. I can't say for sure how quickly the bank moves on that. I mean,
Yeah,
The
look,
question is, am I losing any money with that bond?
no.
in other words, you're not buying a bond. You're taking either a letter of credit from the bank, where the bank issues a letter of credit saying, yes, you have the funds to cover that amount. So the letter of credit is in lieu of a bond. I don't think your bank, whether they charge anything for the letter of credit, it wouldn't be much, if anything.
Tom, what is the timeline? As Ron said, that other people are waiting in line. How long, Ron, are we giving it for the paperwork to be done and approved so you can bring you guys the stuff on the 23rd?
It'll be done. It'll be done by.
I think he's saying a week or something.
No,
It'll be
no.
done
I
by
understand,
Monday.
but he cannot give him paperwork on the 22nd. He's gotta be done the 23rd. Let's try to wrap it up by Monday.
By Monday, it'll be wrapped up. By Thursday, it's all done. And then we move on our merry way. All right?
You guys.
And
have
then
a
you
good night.
finish and you get your money back.
And what is the date we have? March 1st, we're saying?
Yes.
The
March
bond?
1st.
Now, who do I pay the bond for?
The Township of Ocean, but Tom Hirsch will
Yeah,
guide you.
We'll go through that, Orin. But yes, it's essentially be the Township of Ocean. It's either a cash, you're
Okay,
posting
let's do
cash
this.
or you're posting a letter of credit.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Okay, so no.
Right.
Mark,
right.
everyone's
Thanks,
comfortable.
ladies and gentlemen. Have a great holiday.
Hold on 1 second, guys. Are we approved for extension then?
Yeah.
Mr. Matlock will advise you the terms of an extension. He's
Yes.
the one. And now he knows the direction.
I'll issue a letter that recommends an extension contingent
to.
on posting of the bond.
And Ron Kirk, what's gonna happen with the summons that I received based that I wasn't in the timeline, now that I'm receiving an extension?
You still have to tell the judge why the last 3 or 4 years of your life have been spent non-compliant, but I wouldn't bring it up in this venue.
Yeah, it's not the venue.
Now, I received 2 summonses. I didn't.
All right.
Okay.
Orin, it's no
Okay.
point talking about that here. You have another attorney actually representing you. dealing with that. So
You got it.
it's not going to get resolved here. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right, folks. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good holiday.
All right,
Take care.
Mr.
Bye-bye.
Chair, Mr. Gino DeLomo is in the house.
Great.
We have now, okay, so Mr.
So let's-
Farber,
We'll switch back to Mr. Farber's case, and I'll open it formally here, please.
okay, would
Yeah,
just
I was afraid of this.
Go ahead, Mr. Farber. What, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just
Tom,
want to
That
mention,
whether Steinberg would.
Tom, you're still on. Tom,
Tom.
we hear
I
you.
mean, just shut up.
Sign off or mute.
Yeah, he had it right away. Well, it's been 4 years. I mean, I didn't need.
Tom, there you go. We don't want to hear those
Muted
comments.
him.
okay,
All right, Counselor, real quick.
okay, very
Mr.
quick.
Farber, you have 5 members eligible. This is a
Well,
D
that is-
variance.
Yes, that's the question mark. There may be 5 members, but this is a continuation from the January 21 meeting. There were New Jersey DEP approvals that took up a lot of time. I just want to make sure everybody's read or listened to the transcript from the earlier meeting of the 5 board members, so they're all eligible.
Actually, Mr. DeGennaro is in the house, so that makes 6.
Yes, I apologize. I was late.
Thank you.
So
Okay.
you have a good question. The counselor's asking, has the newer members listened to the tapes?
No,
I
we
have
have not. I have not been privy to the tapes. No.
This is a carried case, and that's the reason why he's asking this question. So that puts us in a situation again.
Do you have, Mr. DeGennaro said he didn't listen to the tape. I don't know if Ms. Beal or some of the others who may have not been on have listened. I didn't hear.
Talarico, did you listen?
I did not.
Okay. So, I don't know if we can go forward, Mark, if they haven't listened, because this is a continuation. Am I correct, or?
You can go forward and they'd have the opportunity to listen before they could vote, but they don't have any of the gist of the application at hand today. It's up to you. You cannot get a vote tonight. You don't have enough people to vote.
Then why don't we carry it so everybody has heard it, and then we can move forward. But I would ask, hi, all new members, Mr. Gennaro, Ms. Talrico, if you could make sure you listen to the tape. So if this could be carried to the next meeting, that way at least it can be voted on.
Not a
Mark, am I
problem. How do we access the tapes? Is that something that Amy provides?
I see.
Amy will help you, or Ron, they had
Gotcha.
access to that.
Yeah, Amy. All right, so at your request, this matter of Kenneth Greenstein, or Stein, Block 22, Lot 90, 204 West Morgan Avenue, Ocean, is being carried to the meeting of January 20, 2022, without any further public notice or any necessity for additional publication.
Okay, thank you.
And you again, you extend the time in which this application must be resolved on the record, correct?
Right, and.
To the next
I'll
meeting,
just-
and that you'll send something to Amy when you come back from vacation.
Amy will forward the form to me, and I'll
Mentioned,
sign
okay.
it for my
Well,
Monday.
We're carried on the record and somewhat of an apology. We will get all the members who are going to be there on the 20th to have been brought up to speed. Okay?
And although it was forwarded to me by someone, just Amy, make sure I get Jim Higgins' November 16th report on Aurora. It was never sent to me. Thank you, everybody. Happy holidays. Take care.
You too.
Good night.
Number 4.
Okay, going to case number 4, Juan Sardo.
Good evening, Chairman Sorrell, members of the board. How is everybody?
Oh, good evening, Counselor.
It's 8:30 and we haven't had a case. Go ahead, Jen.
Well, I'm happy to say, Jennifer Krimko from the law firm of Ansel, Grimm and Aaron here on behalf of the applicant. I'm happy to say that this application is much simpler than the ones that you have been dealing with up to this point. We are here for a simple bulk variances related to a corner lot on West Lincoln Avenue and Corey Drive. There's an existing house, existing garage, and some patios. And my applicant is looking to basically put a pool with a pool patio and an outdoor kitchen behind his house. Since it is a corner lot, the Corey Drive, what would have been a side yard, is actually also a front yard. So we need a variance. Fortunately, this applicant, well, the predecessor to this applicant came before this board many years ago and got permission to have a 6-foot high solid fence along the Corey Drive front yard. So as you'll see, when I move in some photos into evidence, everything that goes on behind that fence, what we're seeking is completely not visible from the street or anyone. So it's relatively simple. I have the applicant here. I have the engineer here. We submitted in our delay from last week, last month, we submitted revised plans to address almost all of Mr. Matlack's review. So I think with that, we're ready to get going.
All right, Amy, can you mark the packet B1, please?
Yes.
And I'd like to start with our professionals. So is Mr. Higgins with us?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, sir, you're up.
Okay, I will summarize. The application is for the accessory structure setback for the pool and the pool patio, which is in the front yard. It's a very narrow lot. It's a 50-foot wide lot. It's a corner lot. And would Ms. Crimfo just confirm, I know you said that the fence was approved to be in the front yard. Was it approved to be on the front property line?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, I believe it was constructed as approved. And as you'll see in the photos, there is some landscaping in front of it.
I don't want to interrupt anybody. I went through the packet. Jim's report in this packet
Oh my God.
is Anthony Russo from November 15th.
What?
No, it's
The packet,
Yeah.
the packet that I have and
Oh,
all the
okay.
board
Oh,
members.
Your packet, okay. Then somehow
All
the
the-
wrong report got.
Right.
put into
Some,
that. Yeah.
maybe, Amy, can
You
you,
want me to
can
read it
you?
then?
Yeah, I think you need to read it. Am I correct, board members? You got the
Right.
packet?
Mr. Chair, may I make a request in light of the hour plus we've all been sitting here? I think that if you allow me to present my witnesses and I go through it, I think we're going to address almost everything in Ben's and Jim's report. And then if I left something out, perhaps we can have them jump in and we can address it.
All right,
Well,
well,
why-
wait a minute.
I don't have
Mr.
a problem.
Higgins, are you done? Mr. Higgins, you done?
Well, it depends I'm pretty much done. If she's going to address everything in the report, I think that's the way to go.
Okay, Counselor, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Wait a minute, Jim. Jim, we don't have the report.
Yeah,
The
you
board
don't
members
the
don't have it
report.
in
That's
front of them.
That's the problem.
So maybe while she's testifying,
It'll take me 2 minutes to read it.
yeah, go ahead, because the board members don't have it in their packets.
It's dated
And-
November
and
15th.
Amy, can you send that out again? Not this minute, but they need a copy of the report.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, it happens.
The applicant is requesting to construct a pool surround, and outdoor kitchen. The site is a rectangular 7,500 square foot corner lot with 50 feet of frontage on West Lincoln Avenue and 150 feet of frontage on Corey Drive. It's occupied by a single family dwelling and a detached garage. And the fence Ms. Krimko is talking about is along the frontage of Corey Drive. The 150 feet of frontage, it doesn't extend the full length of the frontage, but most of the frontage. The variance that's necessary is an accessory structure yard setback. The ordinance requires that accessory structures maintain the required 30-foot front yard setback and a 10-foot side and rear yard setback. The proposed pool setbacks from Corey Drive are 10.18 feet to the pool patio, 13.68 feet to the water's edge, and 18 feet to the outdoor kitchen front yard setback. The pool patio is set back 7 feet from the side boundary line on the other side of the site. The site's extremely narrow and would be difficult, if not impossible, to provide a conforming setback for these accessory structures. While it is clear that fencing will be provided around the pool, there is no fence detail, so it is not possible to determine whether a variance is necessary for the surrounding fence. I think that's irrelevant at this point because I was not aware that that fence had been previously approved. The ordinance permits a pool the pool fence is permitted by variance, so I'm not even going to go into that anymore. It's basically just the pool patio and the pool. And then there's a couple other comments by the zoning officer. It's based on the boundary topographic survey. The existing generator is within the front yard setback on Corey Drive. While permits were issued for the unit, the generator has been installed in a non-conforming location and in violation of the zoning approval. And I just lost my report because somebody put
I'm sorry. I didn't know that took away your report, Jim. Sorry.
I'm reading it from my computer. Thank you.
I apologize.
That's all right. It appears the rear brick patio by the existing detached garage was constructed without the benefit of a zoning permit. That's something that has to be addressed. And the detached garage is pre-existing non-conforming in that it does not meet the required front, side, and rear yard setbacks. If the detached garage is ever to be structurally altered, enlarged, or rebuilt, variances would be required. Unless that detached garage was approved by a prior application by the board, and I'm not aware of that, and I don't think the zoning officer was aware of that at the time. But the one comment I do want to make is that you cannot see any of these improvements from the street because of the fence.
Okay.
There we go.
May I proceed, Mr. Worrell, and we'll address all of Ben's comments in it since they're all technical in nature with regard to drainage?
Yeah, I'll let you go before Mr. Matlack goes. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. I appreciate that. So A1 is the survey dated 3/22/21. A2 is the grading plan dated revised through 11/29/21. A3 is a photo packet, which I'll share on the screen, consisting of 1, 2, 3, 4 photos. And what I'd like to do is first introduce my client, Juan Sardo, have him sworn and walk through these photos since he's the one who took them, and then we can talk about a couple of the existing items. We'll get on then to Anthony Maltese.
All right, Mr. Sardo, you want me to swear you in, please? Is he
Yes.
here?
Yes,
Could
he
you
is.
state your name and address, please, sir?
Juan Sardo, 469 West Lincoln Avenue, Oakhurst, New Jersey.
Okay, and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you. Juan, you own the property that's the subject of this application tonight?
Yes.
Okay, so looking at the screen, what I'm showing here, this is a photo of your house from West Lincoln looking towards the front, and Corey Drive would be on the left.
That's correct.
Okay, and then going to the second photo, this is looking southerly on Corey Drive, looking at the back of your house. On the left here is the existing garage. That's the house, and that's the fence.
Correct.
Okay, and what year did you purchase the house?
I purchased the home December of 2016.
Okay, and at the time you purchased it, that garage was existing and it's always been there?
That's correct.
Okay, and the brick patio that's outside the garage, that was also existing at the time that you purchased the house, and you...
Paper? It needs paper?
I'm sorry?
Sorry.
Juan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so that patio also existed at the time you purchased the house, and you just merely updated it in the same footprint?
Correct.
Okay. And then this is looking back towards the backyard from the intersection of Corey Drive and West Lincoln. And again, that's the fence that was approved by variance.
Yes, yes, it is.
And then lastly, this is looking down the driveway at the end. And the reason I'm sharing this is as we'll have testimony from your engineer, there will be the pool equipment in this area behind the fence. In looking at the grading plan, which the engineer will go over in great length, the zoning officer had brought up the fact that there is an existing generator in the front yard, in the rear of your property, and I think I'm pointing to it right about here. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. To your knowledge, when the generator was put in, did the installer get all the necessary permits?
Yes, I hired a contractor who took care of getting all the permits.
Okay, and when it was installed, you were not, it was inspected and you had no idea that it was in violation. You thought it was put in as was approved.
I actually got approvals for every part of the job, so I was thinking that I was in compliance.
Okay, and According to the zoning officer, it was supposed to be installed on the other side, and then it was installed in this non-conforming location. Why was it installed in this location? Is it possible to move it to the other side, or does it have to remain here?
If it's on the other side, it's going to be in the driveway.
And did it also didn't you also tell me it had to do with the run from the panel as to the location of where it had to be?
The plumber made mention to me that it had to be the first thing off of the gas meter.
Okay.
Gas meter being on the opposite side of the house on the Corey Drive side. That's why he put it where he did.
Okay, and how long has it been there?
A little over a year and a half.
Okay, and have there been any complaints from any of your neighbors that you're aware of?
No,
Okay, and in looking from Corey Drive, is that generator visible in any way?
no, it is not.
Okay, and by having it on the Corey Drive side, it's actually farther away from any of your neighbors than it would be if it was on the other side. So when it does go off, it's actually going to be further away and less of a nuisance to your neighbors next door to you and in your backyard.
That is correct.
Okay, that's all I have.
Jen, are you amending your application to include that?
Well, the notice included it, so yes, to the extent that my application needs to include it, yes, I am.
Yeah, that's fine. And what is how many feet is that off the property?
I'm gonna have the engineer testify to that.
Okay, okay,
It's in my notice, Mark. I don't
Okay.
remember off the top of my head.
I'll
but-
check it. I'll check it.
Okay,
Thank you.
so, Mr. Chair, that's all I have for Mr. Sardo. I'd like to call he's open to questions from the board, and if there are no questions, I'd like to move forward with the engineer
And the public.
and the public, right?
Okay, does any board members, before I switch to our engineer, have any questions for the applicant? No board members. Okay, anybody from the public have any questions for this applicant? All right, let me move on to Mr. Matlock.
No, my engineer. I'm sorry, Mr. Worrell.
Oh, your engineer, okay.
Hopefully
ahead.
we won't need Mr. Matlock. Hopefully when we're done with Anthony, he'll say he's satisfied and we're good to go.
All right, go ahead.
If I could introduce Anthony Maltese, have him sworn.
Mr. Maltese, you with us?
Yes, I am.
All right, can you state your name and credentials?
Anthony Maltese. I'm a professional engineer licensed in New Jersey, Pennsylvania. I'm also a professional land surveyor, professional planner, and certified municipal engineer.
All right, have you been before this board before?
No, I have not.
Okay,
But you've been accepted before numerous boards throughout the state as an expert in these fields.
Yes. I
okay,
have.
we'll accept them.
All
Can you
right,
please
thank
raise
you.
your right hand?
Sure.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, proceed, Counselor.
Thank you. So Anthony, I'm gonna call up on the screen the plot plan which your office prepared and ask you to just walk through what the proposed improvements are, where they're located. I'll point them out as we do it, and I apologize, your AutoCAD notes keep popping up on it, but can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, Anthony, why don't you just talk about the existing lot, what we're proposing?
Okay, the property situated at 469 West Lincoln Avenue on the corner of West Lincoln and Corey Drive. It's in the R4 zone. The requirement for the R4 zone is a minimum 10,000 square foot lot area, whereas we have 7,500 square feet. So we're undersized. The lot width requirement is 90 feet, and we have 50 feet, which creates a skinny lot here.
We essentially
currently
have a hardship in that we're much smaller and narrower than would typically be allowed. And on top of that, we're a corner lot, so we have 2 front yards.
Yes, so
Okay.
you can take notice, per the last letter from Mr. Matlock, we adjusted the front yard setback, 30-foot front yard from Corey. And also
Anthony,
Lincoln. Yes,
knowing how many other members there are and recognizing that what the board is interested in as it relates to this application, let me walk you through,
right,
the changes to the plan to conform to Mr. Matlock's letter is not as important as what we're proposing here today. So we're proposing where I'm pointing out here, an in-ground pool behind the house with a patio and an outdoor kitchen. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's
Okay, and
correct.
what is the setback of the pool from the Quarry Drive property line?
The pool is 13.68 feet. And the
Okay, and it's
pool
actually,
patio is 10.1 feet.
okay, so both the pool patio and the pool would conform on that side if it were a side yard,
Correct.
correct? Okay, and the same goes for the kitchen. The kitchen's 18, the kitchen is 18.24 feet from the front property line. Yes?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, in looking at the east side, the plan shows the pool's at 10.5 feet, so that does conform. And there's a 3-foot section of the patio that is 7 feet, which is permitted. But in the areas where the patio widens, it's technically supposed to be cut back to 10 feet. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we're just asking for a variance for those portions of the pool patio that are not at the east end of the pool, just so we can have a squared off patio.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and it's obviously much farther away than the existing garages, and there is a fence on the east side as well. And you have an area here that you indicated proposed concrete pool equipment pad on the side by the driveway. That's behind the fence, and that's in a conforming location and would be shielded from view.
Correct.
Okay, and to answer Mark's question, approximately what is the distance of the generator from the front property line on Quarry Drive?
It's approximately 8 feet. From the property line to the generator?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't have that dimension, but it is approximately 8 feet.
Okay. And is there any location on this property where the pool or the kitchen could go without it needing a variance for being in the front yard on Quarry Drive?
Not that we could see, no.
Right, otherwise it would need a side yard. So from a planning perspective, it's your testimony that there's a hardship for strict compliance and that we're mitigating whatever negative impacts could possibly be conceived as a result of this application?
Yes, I would concur.
And with regard to the letter of November 12th, 2021, we can comply with 1 through 4, correct?
Correct.
And on number 5, it's in the pool equipment's in a conforming location behind the fence. So it would be screened from view from the neighbors and from the street.
That's correct.
6, we agree that it's in the zone X, and we'll clarify that on the plan.
Yes, we did.
Okay, and what utility service connections will be extended to the kitchen area?
Water and gas. I would assume electric too. We don't have electric shown, but I would assume electric as well.
Okay, so if the board were to approve this and it is going to be electric, you would also show that on your plan as well?
If they like, yes.
Okay. Mr. Chair, that's really all I have as it relates to this.
Okay, let me just ask our engineer, do you have any comments, Mr. Metlack?
Just a point of clarification, I scaled the drawing and I measure 7 feet for the generator to the front property line. So I just want to make sure that that's corrected for the record.
Thank you.
The revised plan did address the comments that I had in my November 12th letter. So I don't have any other concerns. I believe the stormwater was the biggest concern of mine, and that was sufficiently addressed. So I'm fine with this.
Okay, thank you, sir. So does any board members have any questions for this?
I just have one question. If you can give me the approximate dimension of the extended pool patio, it only runs for what, 10 feet more? at the 7th, where it's wider than 3 feet.
I'll get you that number.
Okay, approximately, I would put that in the resolution. Thank you.
That's fine. If you just send me an email, I'll scale it out and get you that number.
Okay.
Okay. Does any board member have a question for this engineer? If not, does anyone from the public have a question? All right, with that being said, I need a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
To close?
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, counsel, you have anything else or do you rest your case?
I rest my case. I think this one is a clear-cut hardship condition. The applicant did everything he could to get as close in compliance as possible and is mitigating any impact for the variances we're seeking relief from.
Okay, one last time, any board members have any questions? If not, I'm going to ask Mr. Steinberg to give us the summation of what we need here.
And just one comment, I just scaled it off. The patio extension to the north is 8 feet beyond the pool edge, and to the south, it's 6 feet beyond the pool edge. So those are figures for Mark.
Okay,
Okay, I got it. They're asking,
Would you like me to sum up, Mark?
yeah, because I don't have his report in front of me. Go ahead.
What we're seeking is variance relief for the pool patio of 10.18 feet in the Quarry Drive front yard. The pool 13.68 setback in the Quarry Drive front yard. The outdoor kitchen 18.24 feet in the front yard setback in the Quarry Drive. The generator approximately 7 feet in the front yard setback of Quarry Drive. And the brick patio existing by the garage of 4 plus or minus feet in the Quarry Drive front yard, and then the side yard setback of 7 feet for the pool patio on the east side.
Which, and that only runs for an additional 8 feet.
Correct. Right.
The balance of it is only 3 feet wide, and that's fine.
Correct.
Okay, so I need a board member to make a motion to what the counselor just said.
I'll move.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Amy, can you call the roll, please?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mrs. Tallarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro, Mr. DeLomo,
Yes.
Chairman Worrell.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, good luck to the
Thank you very
applicant,
much.
and give Amy a call tomorrow morning, anything that she needs to wrap this up.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I received an email from Mr. Sal Alfieri, and they would like a time extension for 3500 Sunset with the 5 people in attendance and the multitude of variances they're looking for. They would prefer to have a full board in attendance at this time. So they're asking for a time extension.
Okay, so that would bring us to January 20th meeting?
Yes.
Okay, and they do not need to renotice or anything like that?
Yeah, that matter can be carried to the meeting of January 20th, 2022, with no further publication and no further notice. I assume that Mr. Alfieri has granted you a time extension through that evening, and he will sign the time waiver that Amy will send him.
You've got it.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
I thought
Oh,
you.
I didn't know you were on.
Oh,
I didn't know you were on. Okay.
All right.
That's great. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you all.
Which brings us to case number 5, which is Brielle Avenue LLC, block 184, lot 1 and 4, 1304-06 Brielle Avenue, Ocean. This is a zone, I think, L1.
That's it, I1, Mr. Chair.
I1, I'm sorry. This is an application to construction addition to the existing warehouse structure, a new building with variances, minor subdivisions, and a land swap with the township. Counselor, you're up.
Thank you. And again, I'm still Jennifer Krimko from the law firm of Ansel Grimm and Aaron on behalf of this applicant. This one is not as simple as the one before, but I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible. What we have here is an existing parcel that has a flex warehouse space that has a variety of uses there. We are seeking to do an addition on the existing warehouse and construct a new building for a novel use that I think would be the first of its kind in Ocean Township, called a car club. I know that the board's going to have a lot of questions about it, and I have the operator here to testify and answer any questions after we go through our engineer and our architect. I will tell you that it is a unique use. I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to have far less of an impact than in general warehouse type use or flex space would have in this location. We did have a chance to, as part of this, because of the strange frontage along the front, along Valley Road, which is also Rose Avenue in certain areas, we wanted to square off our frontage for two reasons. One, to allow for better access in and out of the site and more parking. And two, more importantly, it would allow us to reduce the height of the walls we would need, the retaining walls, in order to construct the parking lot. What this board is not aware of is that this applicant has gone before the planning board not once but twice on two different developments on this site, both of which were approved, to add a substantial amount of warehouse flex office space, which included a lot of the same variances we're seeking tonight, but also much more significant variances as it related to the retaining walls and the wall and fence height. So as part of this application, the we've entered an agreement with the municipality to swap land and pay them for the difference. And as part of this application is a subdivision in order to relocate those lot lines. I will tell you who I have here tonight, just so you'll know who to direct questions to. I have the site engineer who's going to walk through what's existing and proposed and the variances that we need. I have the project architect who's going to go through the floor plans and elevations of the buildings, as well as the ground mounted signs. I have a traffic engineer if there are any questions for him, but I was not going to put him up for affirmative testimony because I think that the testimony from the other two witnesses should suffice in addition to the traffic report that was submitted. I do have I have a representative from the owner of the site and who will also be the operator of the car club to answer any operational questions that were not able to be answered by the engineer or the architect. And then because this is a novel use that wasn't contemplated by your ordinance, we are seeking a use variance for the car club portion. So I have a planner here to wrap up the testimony to provide you the statutory reasons for the variance, for the use variance and the bulk variance. I would just ask, in the last hearing, Mr. DeGennaro did not vote, but I see that he's still here. Is he still here?
Mr. DeGennaro? He's here.
Okay, I see him.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Yes, I'm still here.
Okay,
My microphone.
To that end, Jen, you have 6 eligible voters.
Right, and I listen. I have faith, but I'm not positive we're going to finish. So I'm happy to proceed and see where we end up. So I know that sometimes, Mr. Chair, you like the board
Yes.
professionals to read their report. So I would defer to them, and then I'll move some items into evidence and get started.
Thank you. Amy, can you mark the packet B1, please?
All right, and just for the board members, new members edification, we usually don't do subdivisions and site plans unless they're in front of you in conjunction with a D variance. As you heard, Ms. Krimko is asking for a D1 variance for the car club, which then gives this board jurisdiction to do a subdivision and to do the site plan. So that's why everything is in front of us, because the planning board does not have jurisdiction to grant a D variance. Only you do. So everything's here for you tonight. Aren't you lucky?
Yes, thank you. So ask a lot of questions if you don't understand something. That's all I could say. So Mr. Higgins, you're up.
Okay, and what I'm going to do is summarize my report. I think Ms. Krimko did a very good job of summarizing the application, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of what she said. This was a site that was approved by the planning board. The layout is very similar to, but I think, improved over what the planning board was able to approve. What I do want to do is explain, particularly for the new members of the board, the nuances of the D1 variance. There are 6 different types of variances that are called use variances. Most of them don't involve the use itself, but a D1 is the first of those 6, and that is a variance that involves a use that is not permitted in the zone. And what the applicant has to show, first of all, is what are called special reasons for the granting of that variance. And there are really 3 categories of special reasons that they can demonstrate. One is that the use is an inherently beneficial use. It's one that by its very nature advances the general welfare, such as a hospital, a church, generally those types of uses. Also solar panels, those types of things that there's a need for public use, and it does really by its nature advances the general welfare. This is not one of those. A car club does not by in and of itself advance the general welfare. The second would be, and this is rarely happens, that the site has been zoned what's called into inutility, that it can't reasonably be developed for its own purpose. And again, this site can be developed for its own purpose. It's approved right now to be developed for its own purpose. And the third, and it's the one that's most commonly used in the case of a D1 variance, is that the general welfare is advanced due to the particular suitability of the site and the fact that the granting of the variance will advance one or more of the purposes of the municipal land use law. And those are the things that the applicant's planner is going to have to testify to. I don't have, as far as the use itself goes, I don't have a big problem with it. I think this is the right site for this type of use, but we need to have them put the proofs on. The second aspect of the D1 variance is what's called the negative criteria. And the applicant has to show that there is going to be no substantial negative impact as a result of the granting of the variance. And there's several aspects of that. There's the fact that he has to show that there's not going to be any substantial impact on surrounding properties or on the immediate area of the site. And that would be aesthetics, could be traffic, could be other things that may possibly impact the surrounding area. And the second is that it's not inconsistent with the master plan or the zoning ordinance of the site, which is those 2 combined are basically called the zone plan. And the applicant must what's called reconcile the omission of the use from those uses that are permitted in the zone. So there's really 2 aspects of the negative criteria. One is that it doesn't have an impact on surrounding properties. And the second, that it doesn't have an impact on your zone plan, or why, and for the applicant to explain why it was omitted. And quite frankly, in this instance, I think the second aspect of that is very easy, because this is a very unusual use. And quite frankly, I never would have considered this type of use for any zone when doing a zoning ordinance, because it is such an unusual use. So I think the reconciliation is easy. As far as the impact on surrounding properties, again, I don't think there's a substantial impact, but we'll let their planner address that. There are a number of bulk variances and waivers. Most of these, if not all of them, were granted at one time by the planning board. And I don't really have a big concern with them. Again, their planner and their engineer can go through them. I don't see having to go through them twice for you. The only real concern I have in terms of the site layout is that the new building, not the addition to the existing building, but the new building that will have the car club in it, also has approximately, I think it's 35,000 square feet of warehouse in it. And there are no loading spaces directly adjacent to that building. The only loading spaces are 150 feet away on the existing building and the existing building addition. And I have concerns as to how those warehouses are going to function without loading spaces being directly adjacent to the warehouse, where the trucks can pull up to the warehouse and unload. So that has to be discussed by the applicant. Now, I would almost rather see a minimal parking variance for the number of parking spaces and have loading spaces adjacent to the building than have this building without any loading spaces.
Jim, are you talking about the car club building?
The car club building, yes.
Yeah, it's only going to have cars in it. There is no deliveries or loading.
Okay, the plans say warehouse.
No, it's a car warehouse. As you'll hear from the testimony,
Okay.
this is just where fancy cars are gonna live.
Okay, so there's not going to be there's
No
not going to be
loading.
an additional warehouse in there.
No. It's all
The
car
entire-
club.
Okay, that's fine. Then I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. You all done?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, next, our engineer, Mr. Matlack.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There have been a lot of my original report has been addressed through the revisions to the plans that were made. I do want to hear some testimony regarding traffic. It does not necessarily from the traffic engineer. It could be from Ms. Krimko's other witnesses, but how intense the use is going to be for the car club and the expanded warehouse building next door. I'd like to hear testimony about the use of the warehouse addition because there are several other uses in the existing building that, if they are expanded upon, could increase traffic to the site. The stormwater generally was not really a problem. A couple minor things were addressed in some comments. We'll hear testimony from their engineer regarding that. My concern was the circulation of a garbage truck. I asked for truck turning templates for whatever vehicles were going to be coming to the site, and those plans were provided. My concern was that the garbage truck, in order to pick up refuse near the car club building, has to back into an existing parking space on the site. And if that is the case, and the parking lot is full, there could be an issue. Some testimony on that is necessary. Maybe timing of the pickups will work itself out. But those are my main concerns.
All right, thank you, Mr. Matlack. All right, Counselor, you're up.
Thank you. And I'm happy to say that we can, I think, pretty swiftly address all the concerns that were raised by Ben and Jim. And I thank him for the summary on the use variance proofs. For a use variance, it makes my planner's job a little bit easier for you to have an understanding. So just a couple of additional items I want to move in that we're going to rely on. Well, I'll move them all in, and then I have a couple more other than what you have. A1 is the site plan, revised 11/30/21. A2 is the subdivision plan, revised 11/29/21. A3 is the survey, dated 1/11/21. A4, the architectural plans. There's the wrong date on here. I think the date is 12. The date in Ben's letter is not correct. It's 12/1/21. Drainage area map 4/14/21. Traffic impact and parking assessment. As A6, A7 stormwater report, May 2021. And then A8 is an aerial exhibit dated, God, I can't read that. Let's see, 12/16/21. A9 is a color rendered site plan dated 12/16/21. And then A10 is a photo packet prepared by the professional planner you'll hear testimony to, and that's consisting of 4 sheets. So with that, I'd like to introduce my engineer, have him sworn. And again, like the last engineer, he has testified numerous times before other boards, never before this board, so I'll have him take a moment to qualify himself. Kyle Kavinsky.
Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Kyle Kavinsky. I'll just spell it for you. Kavinski. I'm a partner at Dynamic Engineering with over 10 years of experience. I hold a bachelor's degree in engineering technology from the University of Delaware. I'm a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey. And as Jen said, I've been in front of numerous boards throughout the state.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. So, Kyle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and I'll start with the aerial, and then I'll move over to the site rendering when you ask me to. And you're the expert here, and you prepared the plan, so I'm going to let let you take it away and only jump in if there's something I feel necessary to direct you by. So was he sworn?
No, I will swear him in now. You kind of jumped the gun there.
Sorry.
Can you please raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, Kyle, as soon as you can see my screen, I would ask you to take it away and explain to the board, what's existing, what's proposed.
No problem.
And we'll move on, and just tell me when to move to the next exhibit.
No problem. So again, what we have up on the screen is an aerial exhibit prepared by our office dated December 16, 2021. We'll go ahead and mark that, I guess, Jen, as a...
No, I pre-marked it all.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. The site's located at block 184, lots 1 and 4, with an overall lot area of 6.39 acres. It's a corner lot with frontages on both Brielle Avenue and Rose Avenue / Valley Road. Rose Avenue actually changes to Valley Road east of Neely Boulevard at intersection. The site is located within the I-1 light industrial zone. There's currently a 32,758 square foot existing multi-tenanted warehouse facility with parking lots on the east and west sides of the building. There are 2 existing driveways, one for each frontage, and the remainder of the site is mainly open space and wooded areas. The aerial you have in front of you is a color exhibit of the site and the surrounding areas. To the north, we have, which is the top of the page, we have Rose Avenue with commercial and warehouse uses beyond. To the east, we have that township-owned property with Wegmans beyond. To the south, we have the township water tower and commercial and warehouse uses beyond. And to the west, we have Brielle Avenue with commercial and warehouses beyond. Jen, do you have the minor subdivision ready to go?
No, I don't have that one. I just have, I
Okay.
don't have that one up.
It's no problem. So as part of this application, as we said, we're doing a minor subdivision. And I believe it's referenced as A2 in your packets. The applicant is seeking a minor subdivision to relocate the existing lot line between the applicant's parcel and the township parcel on the eastern portion of that drawing we have. The applicant proposes the property swap between block 184, lot 1, and the township's property directly to the east, which is block 181, lot 1.01. This will create 2 new lots and allow for a more regular lot configuration, as well as reduce some of the retaining wall heights that we had as part of our application. The applicant's property would grow by roughly, by exactly 4,646 square feet to a total of 6.5 acres. And the township property would decrease by that same amount to 1.26 acres. The township currently has a non-conforming lot depth of 127.7 feet, and the applicant's parcel is non-conforming lot depth of 191.7 feet, where 200 feet is required. With the proposed subdivision taking place.
Well, wait, let me just jump in. The lot depth is really technical in nature, and it's just a matter of the irregularly shaped lot and that you measure it at its shallowest point. But the lots, even though the lot depth is technically getting smaller on ours, the lot's getting bigger.
That's correct.
It's just that some of the land that we're buying from the town is shallower. So it goes towards our average. So we're not really changing our configuration.
Not at all. It's just a technical variance where we're getting more lot area at a shallower depth. Correct.
Okay. Sorry.
So yeah, no problem. The new variance is created for the lot depth for the applicant's lot will be 174.9 feet, and the new township lot remains at a depth of 127.7 as part of the subdivision. Again, the rest of the subdivision complies with all the other bulk standards for the proposal.
Oops, sorry about that, guys. There you go.
No problem. So now referencing to the proposed site plan now, we have the site plan rendering up, which is dated December 16th and prepared by our office. So in addition to the proposed subdivision, we have a site plan approval requesting to maintain the existing building that's currently on site and construct a 23,338 square foot warehouse addition with associated parking, 2 loading docks, 1 drive-in door and 1 drive-in ramp, and then also constructing a freestanding 2-story, 39,443 square foot car club with associated parking, 14 private indoor parking garages, and 48 indoor parking spaces. As was stated, the existing and proposed warehouse is a permitted use within the I-1 zone. However, the proposed car club is not permitted within the zone or any other zone within the township, for that matter. Therefore, a D1 use variance is required for the proposed car club. The proposed buildings will comply with the bulk requirements with the exception of the rear yard setback for the car club. The ordinance requires a minimum rear yard setback of 60 feet, whereas 54.3 feet is being provided for the car club.
This is just going up against the town's property where the water tower is, so it's not really having any impact on any neighbors.
That's correct. It's a slight reduction that, again, allows us to maintain the front yard setback as well as provide circulation around the rear, and it should have little to no impact on the adjacent wooded property that's owned by the town.
Okay.
Access to the site is through 4 proposed driveways. Again, we're a corner lot. We have both frontages on Brielle Avenue and Rose Avenue. We are proposing 3 driveway connections on Brielle Avenue with 1 is full movement and 1 is an egress only and an ingress only driveway. And then we have 1 full movement driveway on Rose Avenue.
Well, if it's not personal bankruptcy, it's business.
Because we're requesting 4 curb cuts, only 2 are permitted for the proposed site for the site. Therefore, a variance is required. This variance was actually previously approved back on the old application for 4 curb cuts. This was due to the large size of the parcel and the number of curb cuts that could be allowed if the parcel was then subdivided into multiple lots, which would be over 4 lots. So we're providing 4 curb cuts to allow for access to the various parking lots that we have surrounding the buildings and access to the loading docks and other areas for the trucks and circulation on site. In addition, those curb cuts are actually providing a curb cut width of 48.1 feet, 57.9 feet, and 54 feet along Brielle Avenue, and 81.8 feet along Rose Avenue, where only a maximum of 30 feet is permitted. So this is a variance we're requesting. The reason for this variance is the width of the curb cuts. We need these widths to allow the circulation for our trucks and our cars to be able to access the various parking lots. A total of 211 parking spaces are proposed on the subject site, 7 of which are ADA compliant. The number of spaces complies with the ordinance requirements for the proposed development.
Okay, let me interrupt you there for 1 second. So if the board would approve it with this number of parking based on these uses, we would be compliant, and you did not use the flex warehouse calculation. You did a calculation based on the existing tenants that were in the existing warehouse, such as the wrestling and the like. So
That's correct.
That would make this proposed site compliant. So to address Mr. Matlock's concern, if there was ever any change in tenancy such that the parking demand exceeded the parking provided, that change in tenancy would require a variance that would require them to return to the board.
That's correct.
Okay, so Ben, I think that should satisfy you that we can't do anything in these buildings that would demand more parking without coming back to the board.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. So the other so no variance for the number of stalls, but we are proposing 9 by 18 instead of the 10-foot wide stalls, right? And that's
correct. You're proposing 9 by 18 instead of whereas the ordinance requires 10 by 18. Again, 9 by 18 is a pretty standard parking stall space and provides adequate access and space. It also reduces the amount of impervious coverage as opposed to a 10-foot wide stall. In addition, 9 by 8 stalls were approved as part of the previously approved application as well for the site.
Okay.
There are 4 ADA spaces that are located under the proposed canopy to the west of the car club building. That's kind of shown in that grayish area, right in the center of the page. The clear height below the proposed roof deck is 9'10" in that area. It's thereby adequate to provide adequate vertical clearance in accordance with ADA requirements. We'll be providing some vehicle height signs in there to kind of indicate if anybody going under that there, what the height is. In addition, we're providing future wiring for 6 EV charging spaces on the site. The ordinance requires a front yard parking in industrial zones to be visitors only. Parking stalls located in the front yards will be mainly utilized by visitors as employees will be directed to, park interior to the site. However, should there be need for the employees to park in the front parking lots, we would request the variance for that. The car club will offer 14 private indoor parking garages with access to each unit from the southern drive aisle and 48 indoor parking spaces with access from the drive-in door from the west of the building under the canopy.
Right, and we'll let the architect go through that in a little greater detail.
Perfect.
So you testified that, okay, so the light building, the existing will not have drive-up loading. They'll be limited to box truck loading?
Yeah, that's correct. We're providing a fairly large loading area for the uses that are there. However, the box trucks will be the delivery service in that area. We also provide 2 loading docks on the east side of the proposed warehouse building addition, and those will be serviced by tractor trailers. We are not again, as Jen indicated, we are not providing any loading areas for the proposed car club, whereas 2 loading systems are required. Therefore, a variance is required. The car club will not have any large delivery vehicles supplying the use, I should say. Any deliveries will be from small vans that would utilize a proposed parking space.
Okay, and again, the architect will testify to the interior. So while it may say car club warehouse, there is no warehouse space. It's just for the storage of cars.
Correct. It's for storage of cars. Correct.
Okay, and our original plans that we submitted did not have the refuse called out. We now do have all of that called out, correct?
That's correct.
For refuse for the various uses?
Yes, we were providing two 10 by 20 trash enclosures, and they're proposed on the east side of the existing and proposed warehouse buildings. And then we are also providing a 10 by 10 trash enclosure for the proposed car club at the edge of the eastern parking lot.
Okay, and there will be testimony from the architect, but it's your understanding that most of the activities that would go on in the car club that would have anyone there parking would be in the evening hours, which would not coincide with when the trash would be picked up. So you don't see that there'd be any conflict.
That's correct. Yeah, the evening hours would be mainly occupied by the car club. Therefore, the trash pickups in the mornings shouldn't be an issue at all.
Okay, and we're also going to have private pickup, so we can coordinate that as well.
That's correct. And
okay,
and there are off-peak hours as well. Yep.
So
Jennifer, can I make 2 comments while they're fresh on my mind?
Of course, Jim.
The first is I think the plan should be amended to eliminate the reference to warehouse on that new building.
We will do that.
Second, there were comments about variances necessary for the driveway width.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're necessary. And I'll read the ordinance to the board so they understand this. For all uses other than single-family residential uses, the maximum width of a driveway, exclusive of curb return radii, shall not exceed 30 feet. So that I don't think any of these driveways are more than 30 feet wide, exclusive of the curb return radii.
That's correct.
That's a design waiver. It's not a variance. So if it were necessary, it would only be a waiver, not a variance.
You know that for notice purposes, we're always extremely careful and over notice and over variance. So that's great.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. So before we start talking about the grading and drainage, Kyle, is there anything in Ben's letter that we can't comply with?
No.
Okay. So let's start with, we're going to comply with Ben's letter as he requested additional notes and minor changes to the grading and drainage and things of that nature. So let's just talk briefly about how the site drains, what we're doing for stormwater, the change of grade of 2 feet or more, and the walls and fences.
No problem. So yeah, the site currently drains from north to south and contains some fairly steep slopes throughout the property. The project will flatten out the site for development and provide retaining walls on the southern property line. Your ordinance requires a variance for granting any change in grade more than 2 feet. The plan does propose changes in excess of 2 feet in a number of areas. This variance was previously granted by the planning board on the previous approval. We've actually reduced the size of the overall retaining walls from that application, roughly from 16 feet high to 12 feet high in the rear of the site compared to the previous approval.
And Kyle, I'm pointing to the white line, that's the retaining wall. It's not a looming wall over someone else's property. We're cutting into the hill, so the face of the wall will be facing our parking lot.
That's correct. We will, the parking lot will be facing the wall, correct?
Right, so we're the only ones impacted by the height of the wall.
Yes,
Okay. And then we need to put a fence protection on top, and they do that as a combination, so we just need the variance for the fence, fence wall combination, but it's up against the municipal lot with the water tower.
yes. So yeah, the ordinance requires a combined height of a wall or fence in the front yard, no more than 4 feet high in the front yard and no more than 8 feet high in the side of the rear. The proposed retaining walls and fence will require a maximum height of 17.75 feet high in the rear yard and 14.5 in the front yard. Therefore, a variance will be required for that. Again, this variance was previously granted for a combined height of 22.5 feet high on the other application, so we are reducing. And these heights are needed to be able to develop the site and manage the slopes in that area, as well as stormwater management.
Okay, and the utilities will just be connected through existing utilities from Brielle and Rose?
That's correct. And we retained all the will serve letters for capacity issues for there. I want to just go back real quick to the stormwater. We are proposing a new conveyance system and stormwater design to route stormwater to 3 above ground small scale infiltration basins along Rose Avenue. These will be designed to meet the New Jersey Green Water stormwater quantity, quality, and groundwater recharge requirements.
Okay, and
Is there, Jen, he told us that the height of the fence in the front yard is 14.5 feet. Are we not seeing the whole, is there a front over here that I can't see?
where is the fence? Is that in association with the stormwater?
Correct. Yeah, the fence is associated with stormwater. So we have walled basins along the front
It's
there.
a basin wall.
Correct.
Okay, it's not the back fence.
No.
No.
It's
No,
just
it's the wall
basin.
combination. Yeah.
And I don't know, Jim, does that usually even count as a variance when it's the wall inside a hole in the basin?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, all right.
Okay, but it's the front yard on Rose Avenue, right?
Right,
That's
but again, the wall is not extending above grade, correct?
Correct.
Just the fence is above grade. It's a typical 4-foot fence. So the impact of that wall is only if you're at the bottom of the basin.
Correct.
Okay,
The other fence one is in the back,
yeah, right here.
Yes.
and that's
Right
the
here.
rear yard. And that's
Correct.
against the township border problem thing. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So
Got it.
when we first got Ben's letter, we didn't realize that we didn't do the tree count as it relates to the township's parcel that's coming as part of this. So Kyle, your office went out and actually did an updated tree count, and we just didn't have the opportunity to submit the report 10 days in advance.
That's correct.
So should the board approve this application, it would be contingent on us providing the tree removal and restoration plan and the tree count. But let's just give some testimony with regard to, what we're maintaining on site and what's existing and all that.
No problem. Yeah. So the site contains 371 existing qualifying trees on the site. The project will remove approximately 268 trees. Therefore, approximately 103 trees will remain. So no design waiver is required for the number of trees that will be planted because we're keeping a lot of existing trees that are located along the southern property line. In addition, any deficit to the tree replacement requirement, we make a payment to the Township Tree Fund. Therefore, again, no design waiver is required for the tree location and preservation plan. And again, we would provide that as condition of approval.
Okay, but we would also agree to work with Jim and the Environmental Commission to add qualifying trees in a location if possible. And I'd like you to now, I did skip ahead and I apologize. Now go back to what we are proposing by way of landscaping, because as the board's going to see, this will be an incredibly heavily landscaped site. And there isn't a whole lot of room for more trees, but to the extent Jim can find some areas that he would like more trees, we can certainly accommodate that, right?
Correct. Yeah. So again,
This isn't retail where it's dependent on visibility.
we went heavy on the buffers along the street frontages for the streets surrounding uses. So again, we're maintaining the existing area on the southernmost portion of the site, maintaining the wooded area back there. We're proposing 52 shade and ornamental trees, 28 evergreen trees, and 741 shrubs throughout the site. We're providing substantial landscaping along the property frontages to enhance the views and the buffers from the street. A landscape area of 8.4 feet is proposed from Brielle Avenue, and 13.9 feet is proposed along Rose Avenue, whereas a minimum of 25 feet is required per the ordinance. The parking spaces along Brielle Avenue allow for better circulation and additional parking in front of the existing building that would remain. That's why we're requesting the variance there to again provide some additional parking in that location, as well as the landscaping along Rose Avenue is being utilized to provide adequate stormwater measures for the proposed development. Both landscaping frontages provide a mixture of trees and shrubs and are adequately landscaped to screen the proposed development. There are landscaper islands that are offered throughout the parking lots with a number of trees and shrubs. The ordinance requires 10-foot wide curbed landscape islands at ends of all rows of parking. We do have a few rows that provide less than 10 feet. I'd like to just kind of call out a few of them.
Well, but you know what, Kyle, before we go through them individually, because I think that we can summarize it by saying all of those areas are to the rear of the site and really out of the view of the public and internal to the parking lot.
Correct. Yeah. And again, we do have some retaining walls and some fencing, as well as the grade change that is also providing more separation from that in the streets.
Okay. So to the extent we could comply, we did, but we sacrificed some of the internal landscape islands in order to maximize the parking so as to not need a parking variance.
That's correct.
Okay.
We're also, yeah. We're also providing a double row of evergreen trees on the eastern property line to further buffer out the adjacent township lot.
Okay. And with regard, let's just talk about lighting quickly.
Yep. So we're providing 16 low profile downward facing LED area lights that are 24 to 25 feet tall. We're also proposing 17 building mounted LED lights. These lights provide uniform lighting throughout the parking lots and illumination of the driveways for safety purposes. We'll work with your engineer regarding any overnight security lighting that may be necessary.
Okay, in compliance with the traffic engineer, with the police department's letter.
Correct.
And lastly, we need a variance for the number of signage, freestanding signs, and the architect did a beautiful job designing them. So we'll let him talk about what they look like and the square footage. But if you could just point out the location of where they are.
No problem. Yeah, so we're proposing.
Tell me where to point it out.
We're proposing three freestanding signs for the development. One sign is located along Rose Avenue, west of the driveway access. It's 35 square feet in area and 7.5 feet tall. And then we have two signs along Brielle Avenue near both driveway entrances.
And they're really, as the board will see, more site identification signs than anything else with the address, correct?
Yes.
And the area of the signs combined are less than what would be permitted for the two signs. That's correct. Okay. Mr. Chair, that's the sum of the engineering testimony. I would ask if Bill or Jim, not Bill or Jim, I would ask if Ben or Jim have any questions. For 21 years, I've been saying Bill and Jim, so once in a while when I get tired, I might slip. I apologize. So I'd ask if the board professionals have questions, the board, and then obviously the public.
No, I don't have any questions.
Does any board members have? Ms. Tallarico?
I have a question. What exactly is a car club? Like,
We're
what type of
gonna-
business?
I know that the architect who designed it is going to go into the great detail as to what it is, how it's going to work. It wouldn't make sense to you without seeing the floor plan. That's why we're waiting.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry about that.
Any other board members have a question?
Just one question. The land swap, was that identified?
Yeah, I can, if you bear with me 1 second, because I was able to email myself the plans while we were waiting, and I can show you. Just bear with me 1 second, because I just realized I don't have the architect's plan, so I need to do that. Yes, I can show you on it's on the subdivision plan that you have, but I'll call it up here.
It's on page 2 of the subdivision plans if you have them.
Give me 1 second, and I'll share my screen again. Let me know when you could see that.
I can see it.
Okay, so I'm going to blow it up even a little bit more. So this has a portion of the, this is the existing lot line between our lot and the town's lot. What the town is giving us is this area here. We're giving them this area here because their road currently goes over our property. So we're basically swapping them with the portion of our lot that the road goes over. And then we're also giving them a money payment for the difference in the value of the two parcels. And that was all done by ordinance. That was done more than a year ago. So that's all the land swap is. We're giving them some in the back for the piece in the front. And that's it.
And there is a very, very small triangular piece that's being
Yeah.
added to the Rose Avenue right away.
Right, so if you look right here, you know what, I'm gonna blow it up even more. And I'm sorry I didn't have these before. This small portion right here will be donated to the town for Valley Road / Rose right away. So it'll be a straight frontage along the front.
Okay, thank you.
Do any other board members have a question for this engineer?
You mentioned
I
that.
have a quick
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry. Okay.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Can you hear me? This is Gino.
Yeah, go ahead, Gino.
So basically, what we're going to be storing in those warehouses are what type of cars are they? Are they collectors' cars?
We didn't get there yet, Gino.
Okay.
The next witness is gonna tell you all about it. So again, the freestanding building will be the car club and the car storage. The addition to the other warehouse will just be typical flex warehouse space. But again, the architect is going to give you all of the details of how this car club is going to function, what's going to be inside it, what's going to be stored there, all that good stuff.
Okay.
And I will tell you, as soon as I introduce the architect, I'm going to put up this color rendering. It is going to be the singularly most beautiful building in all of that I-1 zone, for sure.
Does anyone from the public have a question for this engineer?
I had a question. This is Anthony DeGenero.
Go
I had
ahead.
a question for him. You mentioned that we'll be cutting into essentially a hill. How much? I mean, how much soil are we taking out of there? What type of export are you looking at?
I mean, I don't have the number right in front of me. It's less than what was previously proposed for the site when the design was done previously. We dropped the wall about 4 feet. I mean, we're not talking about a substantial cut. We are filling on the other side of the thing to flatten out the area as well. So we're not talking about a lot of fill off the site.
So a lot of it will be used on site. You're going to use a lot on site, is what you're saying.
Correct. Yeah, we're essentially cutting into the hill to then flatten it out on the other side to flatten the site out.
Okay, so there's no other questions. Anyone from the public have a question? If not, let's move on to our next expert.
Okay, I'd like to introduce David Collins, the project architect, have him sworn, and then I'll put up his plans.
Mr. Collins, how are you this evening?
I'm well, how are you?
Good. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is David Collins, Collins, from Phelps Collins Architecture in Lincroft, New Jersey. Hold a bachelor degree of architecture from Marjorie Williams University. I'm an NCARB certificate holder. I'm licensed to practice architecture in New Jersey and New York.
And you've testified before this board numerous times.
I've testified in front of the planning board numerous
Oh,
times.
I'm sorry, I thought you were here.
I'm not sure I've been here. I don't think I have. I've been in front of the planning board many times.
All right, we'll accept your credentials. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Proceed.
Thank you.
Okay, Dave, I'm going to start, of course, with the pretty picture to show the board what we're proposing for the car club site. And you can tell me to go, which page to go to for your testimony as we go through it.
Okay, certainly. So this is a rendering of the car club building. Again, there are basically two buildings on this site. This building is along Rose Avenue, and the view is from Rose Avenue looking into the entranceway off of Rose Avenue. So what you're seeing is a concrete and steel building. on the left side of the photograph, you're seeing the car storage, that warehouse word that's been used. That's one of the common, or is the common car storage area. And to the right of that, on the lower level, is enclosed parking. And on the upper level is the social areas for the club. So what we've done is we've kind of double dipped here, where we've taken and created a secured parking area for car club members to drop their car off. What you don't see by the two people just to the right of the cursor is that there's a gate that slides in front of that opening, and that gate is controlled by car club members. It will either be RFID or a key fob entrance for car club members to drop their vehicles off in a secure area. And then above that, we created a green roof with outdoor spaces to enjoy the exterior, and also a glassed-in area for the social events.
Okay, should we go to the floor plan? I think that might be helpful to the board to understand.
Yes.
That's page 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Scroll to the bottom of the page, please. So this
Well,
car
let's
club.
take it. Before we go in, let's take a minute. Explain what a car club is.
Right, exactly. So there are several of these around the country at this point. There's been a need for people with high-end luxury cars, classic cars, to keep their vehicles in a secure place, a climate-controlled area where the cars can be protected on the one hand, and on the other hand, a need for these people to socialize with each other, to meet and go over and look at each other's cars, talk about cars, enjoy the cars, enjoy each other's company. And so this is a members only club where people will come and bring their car or not bring a car. They can still be a club member if they're just interested in cars. And they can come view the cars and talk about the cars and hang out and relax in the club. So like a gym, but for car enthusiasts is probably the easiest way to say it. So along the bottom of the page is the main entrance into the lobby area. So that's our secure point. Through those double doors, members will come in and be checked in by the receptionist. We have a car on display in that area. It's an open, high ceiling area with staircase, and just to the right of the staircase is a car elevator. And just above the lobby is glass walls that view out into the large car storage area. So everything above Jen's cursor is essentially the feel of a warehouse, but cleaned up and nice. And all it will have in it is, at grade on that slab, is a series of cars as you see parked in these spaces. So what are the reasons why?
Before you go on, I just want to go over a couple things. You had indicated there was a secure area for parking. This is the area here that you're talking about. So what would happen is someone would drive in and they would either park the car here or they would drive it into the building here. So this is a secure area with the gate that you were speaking about.
Right. Technically, they will bring their car to that covered parking secure area. They can leave it there, and the attendants will bring the cars into the building. So we do have a drive-in door on that side of the building. We also have a drive-in door on the opposite side of the car storage, all the way to the right, so that the cars could be managed. They could be brought out from one side or the other.
Okay, so the cars, it literally is just a storage of vehicles really on display.
That's correct.
For the members. And then at the end of this open area, and this is high ceiling here, because as we get to the second floor, we'll be able to see, but this is this area is 2 stories?
Yes, everything from your cursor, that dotted line, that one right there, everything to the right of that is double height space. And that's why one of the reasons why this zone, in terms of buildings, industrial buildings, and the volume you need in industrial buildings, it really fits in with what we're trying to do, because we really want to have that high volume space to create the overlook into all of these beautiful cars parked in that area.
Okay, and before we get there, at the end on the east side, you have 2 wash areas for the cars. So as a service to the car club members, their cars could be washed for them.
That's right.
Okay, you have these cars here that was testified to briefly by Kyle. This is actually garage storage, but the garage is accessible from the exterior. So it's
Right, so-
basically a private garage that they could come and go from.
Right, for the members who really want their cars completely separated, not on display for everyone, these spaces are available to them to use to park their car privately. Again, that key fob or RFID would allow that person to pull directly into their garage space and store their car and close the door behind them, and no one else will go into those spaces.
Okay, so now I'm going to move over to the second floor. And the area here with an X, that is the 2-floor high ceiling overlooking. So under here is where the majority of the car storage is.
That's right. The X represents open to below. So you're on the second story and you're looking down into that space. So just on line 6, Jen, if you could put your cursor on line 6,
Right
just
here.
straight up, that go up a little higher. So that entire area is floor to ceiling glass. So when you're on the second floor, which is everything to the left of that line, you can look down into that space and see all the cars from that space.
Okay.
So
And then-
we've also, and that area is the lounge area, the club lounge. We created a cigar area that's walled off so that we can control smoke. We've got some pool tables, ping pong tables. We have a car lift that will bring cars up to the second floor so that we can display a car on the second floor. Couches, tables, chairs, so that club members could lounge in that area. And we also have a balcony to the left, and that balcony is encircled with a vegetated roof. So whether you're in the lounge or whether you're on that balcony, you're surrounded by greenery up on that second floor. There's also on the north side, there's access out to another balcony. Again, it's wrapped with vegetation. And also a staircase, a second emergency staircase that would lead you down to that covered parking area. So that gives us 2 means of egress right in this general area. And then we stacked the rest, everything to the right of that is utility, essentially. We have men's and women's restrooms. We have a kitchen that supports the club, lounge, and function space. And then everything to the right of that is storage. And this storage is needed for the different types of ways that we may use this lounge. For example, the ping pong table can be folded, slid, and pushed down to that storage area. So there's a certain amount of back and forth that we need to be able to pull some things over. So we created that storage area over the private garage for those elements of the club that need to be stored away from time to time.
Okay, so that's, would you like me to go through the elevations just on all 4 sides quickly?
Sure.
So let me make
Over
it a
to the
little-
right.
Yeah, no, make it a little bit smaller. There you go.
That's perfect. So, obviously this is modern architecture. We feel it's very fitting for the type of use. We're going to have a lot of very high-end luxury modern vehicles. We'll also have classic vehicles in the space. But this kind of minimal modern architecture really fits. We've used tilt-up concrete panels for a bulk of it. We have glass relief in areas to break down the facade into smaller chunks. We've used a very high-end flush metal finish that you would probably see on the higher-end car dealership. So it's a bit of an homage there. A lot of curtain wall and glass, deep overhangs on the club lounge. Again, the vegetated roof. And we softened the area where the people come into the drive aisle by using wood that it essentially acts as a fence and perforated metal. That in that rendering, you could really see that wood and perforated metal. If you can just go down, you can see that wood, that natural wood, and the perforated metal just above it. It doesn't completely enclose that covered parking area. It keeps it kind of light and soft. So that's how we tried to treat the entranceway into the site.
And this is a good one to show one of the 3 signs. It's just a monument sign with a symbol and a number on it for the address.
Right. So since our buildings are tilt-up concrete, we wanted to bring that material back into the signs. We wanted the architecture of the signs to relate to the architecture of the site. So they're very clean, very simple, same concrete finish that we'll have on the building. And in this case, we do have the car club's logo and the identification number. If we go to the drawings, you will see essentially the same sign. Yeah, go down to that one, perfect. These are the two signs that we're proposing on Brielle Avenue. Again, the same design, they're clean. And all that these signs will have are the identification numbers. And one of the reasons why we think 3 signs is important is we have basically 3 entrances into the site, and we have multiple addresses already on the site. So we feel it would be best if we could make sure that emergency vehicles know exactly where to go from the street. They can get to one parking lot or the other. They know exactly which building they're going to. Same with people coming to visit the building. They can look at the address and know exactly where to go. And as testified earlier, we're still respecting the overall square footage of monument signs, even though we're asking for a 3rd sign. There's still less than what we could have had as 2 signs.
Okay, and while we're on this page, let's talk about the addition to the existing building.
Sure. So if you stay right there for a second, this is probably the top drawing is a good one to help everyone understand. Now, this is the east elevation. The portion that's not rendered there is the existing building. This is a low building. It's only, about 16 feet tall. If you look to the left of that, there's an existing slope to the grade that slopes down to that existing site. It then flattens out to the existing parking lot and then steeply slopes from that area down to the level that the car club is on and the finished floor of the addition. So these retaining walls we're talking about, they're really isolated in terms of when we talk about cut and fill, and we're really just pushing into an area in the back of the site that's steeply sloped and balancing. I'm not going to say that it's fully balanced, but trying to balance out some of that cut and fill. So although our walls are tall, it's because the existing condition, it's very isolated, steeply sloped site. So,
okay, so this here is the addition that's facing the car club that we saw on the site plan that had the two loading zones.
That's exactly right. So, we can now get a proper height of a warehouse without putting a giant monstrosity next to an existing building. Because the grade slopes down, we're picking up half a story in the grade, and then we're about a half story taller than the existing building. So this really illustrates the site really perfectly. In terms of architecture, what we've tried to do on the addition to the existing building is obviously use those same materials, concrete panel and this high finish metal panel. And we've used either window banks or window and metal panel banks to break up the length of the wall so that it's in smaller chunks so it doesn't appear so massive. We did that on the loading dock side by taking the drive-in doors and extending them up, cutting the parapet away and using a second relief material, that finished metal finish material. And then again on Brielle Ave, if you can just scroll over down, I guess. Where's the other elevation? To the right, I'm sorry.
Here's south, here is north, east. There it is.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So this is the Brielle Avenue side. So again, you can see on the right-hand side, you can see the existing building. Again, you see a retaining wall in between those two buildings. Again, we're mitigating that slope at that area. And then to the left of that is our addition. We use glass storefront, glass entryways, metal panels, a break in the parapet line, again, to break down the length of these walls into smaller pieces.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's at 55 minutes now, and we have 3 more moving forward.
Okay, I think we're wrapped up with architectural. So could we just have him answer any questions that there might be for the architectural? So then at the next meeting, we can jump right in with the next witness.
Yes, I have a question. Is the building's going to be fully sprinklered?
Yes.
And this is a private club. Do you offer membership for this?
Yes.
Are there going to be any car repairs, such as car maintenance, oil changes, spray painting of vehicles, auto body repair?
No.
Okay, just asking. There's no external exhaust fans, anything like that?
We will have some exhaust fans as we are required by code to change air, but not blowing out fumes, if that's your question.
Okay. Correct. That's it for me right now. What kind of HVAC are you doing? Where are the units going? Are they on the roof, or on the ground?
They'll be on the roof.
They will be on the roof. Okay. Thank you. Ms. Talarico?
What's the average cost of the cars that are going to be stored there?
Well,
I don't-
I don't know that I can pin that down, but these are expensive cars. I couldn't tell you an exact number. I don't think anyone could tell you until we start to get members, or my client starts to get members.
Could you give us, another car club that maybe in our area, and just so that we can take a look at, what they do and how their business is?
I've
This
heard
is
that
very
they're
new.
Yeah, so there's one that I know of. It's called Otto, OTTO. If you look that up online, that's probably a pretty good example. We could probably get a couple others to the board. I can't tell you other ones. That's the one that I know of. I think it's in Arizona. I think there's one in LA. I'm not sure about that.
The closest car club to us here in New Jersey is the one in Arizona?
I don't know that. I know that there is a car club in Asbury Park. I don't know if it's anything like what we're proposing, but I've heard that there is one in Asbury Park.
Mrs. Tellerico, I can tell you that I have the operator here. We don't have time to put him on tonight. So when we finish with Mr. Collins, we can start with him at the next meeting. And then at that point, we can have some sample other car clubs and maybe even some brochures or some other materials we can show you to give you a better idea.
I'd appreciate that. And then my last question is, what is housed in the warehouses that are the other warehouses, not the ones that are, the car club?
So
like what kind of business is it? I'm just curious.
You want me to take it, Jen, or are you gonna take it?
Yeah, no, what I was gonna say is we don't have tenants for the new warehouse, but we can share with you the tenants that are in the existing one. So go ahead, Dave, why don't you let her?
Okay, there are a few typical warehouse uses. Phoenix Railing is one that's in there. And there's, I think, a printing company that's in one. And there is a wrestling club, a wrestling school, I think, in one of the other ones. Triumph Wrestling is in one of the other tenant spaces.
Okay. Thank you.
Will they stay occupied while the addition goes on, or while all this work is taking place, or is the intent to bring in different tenants?
No, they will still occupy the building during construction.
I had a question. You mentioned the concrete panels were tilt-up construction. Is your intent to use precast tilt-up or cast in place tilt-up?
Cast in place.
Really? Okay.
Wow, a board member who has all this construction knowledge. That's exciting.
Sorry.
One last question.
Don't be sorry, it's welcome.
One last question. In your estimation, what is the beneficial use that we are going to get out of this building being placed in a industrial park?
Oh, well, Jim, you're getting ahead. We have a planner. First of all, we don't have to show that it's a beneficial use. We have to show that the site is particularly suited for the use and that we're furthering purposes of the municipal land use law. I have a whole witness who's going to do that.
Okay. That's fine. I guess we're out of time, Mr. Kirk?
I guess could you close this witness out?
Yes.
Yeah, so you want to see if the public has any questions for Mr. Worrell?
Yes, anybody from the public have a question for this witness? I mean, for this expert? No questions?
I have one more question just as a board member. If I had additional questions, who would I send those to?
You would have to wait till the next meeting. So take notes of them.
Okay.
Certainly if you wanted to take notes of them, and we'd be happy to answer them the next meeting. What I will do is between now and the next meeting, I'll get a list of additional car clubs and I'll give that to Amy and Ron so he can circulate that to everybody in advance.
Okay.
If you go online, you can locate other car clubs in the immediate area.
Yeah, but I want to make sure that they're similar, Jim.
Yeah. I think
wanna
that's
make
really
sure-
important.
I want to make sure that they're similar to what we're proposing here.
I know there's one in Manhattan. It looks very
Ladies and
small.
gentlemen, we have to move on.
Okay, so when will this be carried to?
January 20th,
Along with everybody else?
we're gonna have a zillion cases that night.
Mm.
And that's no further notice?
Yes. The matter will be carried to the meeting of January 20th, 2022 without further notice or publication. Ms. Krimko, you're extending the time through that meeting.
Of course, and I'll be happy to sign a waiver when Amy sends it to me in the morning.
And Amy will send you. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, thank you and happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see you soon.
All right, we got 3 more cases to go. Case number 9. Maurice again, Ben-Nor, block 25.30, lot 6, 424 Roosevelt Avenue, Ocean, in an R4. This is an application seeking approval to keep an existing concrete patio that was expanded without permits.
Mr. Chairman, did we skip over Thomas and Arlene?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss? Let me go back my sheet here.
Number 8
Yes,
here.
you're correct.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Howard.
Case number 8. Thomas and Arlene Marlaga. Is I saying that correctly?
Malaga.
Block 150.10, lot 4, 64 Secure Parkway, Ocean, R3. This is an application to install a standby generator within the required side yard setback. All right. Welcome to our applicant.
Good evening.
Good evening. Do you have anything to submit for evidence? So I have Amy mark at B1.
I've given everything to Amy.
Okay, just Amy, then mark what you have B1. Could you raise your right hand and I'll swear you in? Can you state your name and address, please?
Thomas Malanga, 64 Sequoia Parkway, Ocean, New Jersey.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Tell us a little bit why you're here tonight.
I live in Cedar Village with my wife, which is a retirement community, a senior community of approximately 295 homes. And my wife and I are getting up in age, and we're over 70 already. And my wife has some serious handicap issues that makes her mobility very, very limited. Because of that, and the possibility of a power outage, we decided to look into getting a standby emergency generator so that we would not have to vacate the premises if there was a power outage.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think I can summarize the application very quickly.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to ask for experts next.
Yeah, it's a, basically it requires a 5-foot side yard setback. It's proposed to be set back 3 feet. When I looked at the site, first of all, it's going to be set adjacent to an existing air conditioning unit. And I don't think there's any other place on the site that makes more sense than where they want to put it. And quite frankly, having been in Mr. Malanga's shoes at one time, I think it's very important that they have a generator.
Okay.
I will also add that I have spoken, of course, to my neighbors because of this generator would run periodically for testing for short periods, only during the daytime, but nonetheless, and if there was a power outage, it would run. And that's one of the reasons why we selected the area that we did, because it would provide the most minimal impact on any of the neighbors. And both my neighbors agree with that assessment.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Our engineer, Mr. Matlock, anything you have to say?
My concern was regarding noise to the neighbors, and Mr. Malanga just provided some testimony regarding that. Is there any plan for screening the generator with landscaping or fence or anything like that?
Well, no fencing would be permitted by the homeowners association. By the way, the HOA here already gave me approval for the generator. And there's a little over 22 some odd homes with generators already. Some people have put some shrubbery in front or alongside, but it was not required by the HOA. But if the board requires that, I would certainly comply.
Okay, does any board members have a question for this applicant?
I had a question.
Go ahead, Anthony.
You show it, you're going to put the generator 20 inches from the face of the house. Is that correct?
No, it'll be 10 feet back from the front of the house.
From the side of the house. I'm sorry.
Well, it would be out at least 18 inches, 18 to 20 inches out from the building.
I think by code, it has to be 5 foot out from the face of the building.
It's manufacturer specifications at 18 inches is normally the spot. It's the 5-foot rule when it comes to a window or an opening.
Okay, it's window opening, not face. Okay.
Yeah, so the carbon dioxide doesn't pump into the house.
That was my concern. That's the whole point. Okay, good. Thank you.
That was another one of the reasons for the choice of location. This is adjacent. The location is right next to the garage where there are no openings into the house, whereas anywhere else around the house, there is nothing but windows and doors. So this was the most logical location.
Okay, anybody else from the board have a question?
We have in the past, and we've conditioned the testing to be, I think, between 10 and 4 or something like that. I'll have to look at other resolutions. Just will they test it once a month or once a week, or I don't recall the amount of testing it requires, but not use an emergency basis once a week, somebody said?
I think it's 15 minutes once a week.
It is.
Yeah, so I think that we have a condition in other resolutions, which I'll pick up. There is a time slot, like after 10 in the morning and before 5 or something like that.
That's fine.
So then, yeah, would suggest that to the board.
All right, anybody from the public have a question for this applicant?
I've got a question from the board.
Okay. Jack, go ahead.
Do you know the manufacturer of the generator?
It's Generac.
If I might make a suggestion, if you haven't purchased it already, to go with a Cummins or a Kohler. They make quieter units than Generac, and they have higher power quality. I'm not sure if that's something.
Well, I will tell you that all the other generators that I looked at in my community are Generac.
Yeah, they tend to, they have the highest market penetration or market share of home standby generators. But from my experience as an electrical engineer, I would almost never recommend them to a client of mine.
But guys, we're way off on this a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just trying to speak to the noise concern and
understood, but we can't tell the man what kind of generator to have, its location, and are we approving it or not?
So I'm just going to ask if you would consider putting in a quieter unit to alleviate the concern over noise. That's all.
Yes.
Okay, being there's no one else from the public with questions, Mr. Steinberg, can you sum up what I am looking for here?
Yeah, when you're looking for the applicant, let me just find Jim's report here. He needs a variance for the side yard setback of the accessory structure of 3 feet, required 5 feet.
Okay, I need someone to make.
And I would condition upon this approval, again, I will find the other resolutions, but we have daytime testing hours.
Okay.
No problem.
With that being said, I need a board member to make a motion.
I can make a motion.
Make a motion.
And I need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Amy, please call the roll.
Okay. Mr. DeLumo,
Yes.
Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mrs. Tallarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
and Chairman Worrell.
Yes. Okay, congratulations. Just check with Amy tomorrow what she might need from you to close this out.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right.
A happy holiday to everybody.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Case number 9, the Belnors, block 25.30, lot 6, 424 Roosevelt Avenue, Ocean, and R4. This is an application to seek approval to keep an existing concrete pad that was expanded without permits. Was our applicant here?
Yes,
Hey, good evening. How are you?
good, hello.
Are you going to be testifying?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
All right. If you could state your name and address and raise your right hand.
Maurice Benor, 424 Roosevelt, Oakhurst, New Jersey.
Okay, and you swear to tell the whole truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yep.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit, before I hear from our expert witness, our engineers and our planner, a little bit, well, why you're here tonight.
I purchased the house in 2019. It had an
Not
existing
19 or, I'm sorry, 19 or 18?
19.
Thank
Had
you.
had an existing patio. I'm wheelchair bound. I became paraplegic 10 years ago, and I expanded on the patio so I was able to have access and not get stuck in the dirt. So because it's a side yard behind my fence, and you can't see it from the street.
Okay. Thank you for that. And Mr. Higgins?
Yeah, it's another one's very simple. It's a corner lot. The residence is set back 13.7 feet from Elmwood Road. The patio is set back 19 feet from Elmwood Road. So it's set back about almost over 5 feet beyond where the house is. And it's behind the fence. So I really don't have a problem with it. You can't see it from the road. The fence is a 6-foot high fence, solid fence, and the ordinance permits it to only be 3 feet high. But again, the fence is also located behind the front of the building. So I really don't have a problem with the fence being that high either. It's an application that makes sense. The site looks very good. The only other comment the zoning officer had was that the detached garage is non-conforming, so that if something were to happen, if it were to be destroyed or structurally altered, it would require a variance to be reconstructed.
Okay.
But I mean, everything that's being done is behind the front facade of the house, and it makes sense. It looks very nice.
Was the fence there when you bought the house too?
Yes.
The fence was existing, and you got a CO. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't expand the fence.
No.
No.
It's the same
Fence was
place.
existing.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. You didn't change it or it was there.
It was
Okay.
the same fence.
Okay.
I personally don't like a vinyl fence, but that's what was there.
Okay. Well, if you take it down, you got to put a 3-foot fence up. So don't take it down.
If I take it down, I want bushes there, and there's bushes in front of the fence now anyway.
It's landscaped. Okay. Thank you. So I guess it should have been pointed out when you got the CO. It's fine. Thank you. I'll put that in the resolution.
Mr. Matlock, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, the survey that was provided didn't provide any grades. So it's unclear where the surface runoff is draining. Just looking at the property, it doesn't appear that there are any drainage issues, but I would just ask Mr. Benor, does your general slope of your property drain towards the street?
It drains towards the backyard to my property.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any real problems with this, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very
I don't
much.
think there are any negative impacts to the neighbors.
Does any board member have a question for this applicant? Does anyone from the public have a question for this applicant? If not, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion.
The second,
I'll second.
Amy, call the roll, please.
Mr. DeLomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mrs. Tallarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
Chairman Worrell.
Yes. Okay, next we need a motion to let the sidewalk, let the expanded concrete remain.
But I think we got to do two things. I think
Okay.
we got to, yeah, right, the expanded contract with this, with the beyond the required setback and the fence. I think we need to give them the variance that I don't know if it was obtained or wasn't, but it was built without variances. So to keep a 6-foot high fence.
Okay,
Those would be the two reliefs.
I need a board member to make that motion.
I'll move for a positive
the motion.
resolution on both
Thank
counts.
you, thank you very much. A second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you very much. Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. DeLomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mrs. Tallarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
and Chairman Worrell.
Yes. Okay, best of luck to you.
Thank you. Have a great holiday.
Thank you. Please contact Amy tomorrow for any details and, to close this out for you.
Thank you. Will do.
All right. Next case. I don't know how to pronounce this last name. Forgive me. Christian, Matarazzo. Matarazzo.
Yes.
Okay. Welcome, Matarazzo's Block 33, Lot 70, 1701 Findare Avenue Street, Oakhurst, in an R4 zone. This is an applicant to construct an in-ground pool with patio within the required front yard setback on an unimproved paper street, Talmadge Avenue. All right, welcome to the board. Amy, can you mark the packet B1, please?
Absolutely. Okay.
And are you going to testify tonight?
Yes, I guess so. Yes.
Okay, Kid, you just please state your name for the record
Gail Matarazzo.
and raise your right hand. I'll swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. So just tell us a little bit why you're here tonight, and then I'll ask our two experts to testify.
Well, as you described, we've applied for the variance for the minimum setbacks for accessory structures. In this case, the in-ground swimming pool. We'd like to improve our property. We are proposing a 5-foot setback from the unimproved Talmadge Avenue or Paper Street, as we call it, and an 8-foot setback for the pool deck, as stated in the planning consultant's report, which I'm hoping you have a copy of, Mr. Higgins. He states, and we agree, we've been here for 20 plus years, I think now 21 maybe, that it's highly unlikely that Talmadge Avenue will ever be improved. It runs right into Joe Playa Park at dead ends there. And the only other note I might mention is that our neighbors on the other side of that Talmadge Avenue, Paper Street, were granted the same variance several years back to do the same, to put an in-ground pool in. So it's worked out well for them. So we're hoping for the same.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Higgins, can you give us a report?
Yeah, surely. Well, as the applicant said, it's a corner lot and it has frontage on Findare Street, which is improved, and frontage on a stub of Talmadge, which is not improved. It ends at Joe Playa Park. The rear of this site is Joe Playa Park. And I don't see any way that Talmadge Avenue is ever going to be improved. Most likely the best solution would be for Talmadge Avenue to be vacated and half given to each of the side property owners. But they're proposing step backs from variances from Talmadge Avenue, and quite frankly, it's a side yard more than a front yard. And I really don't see any problem at all with the application as it's being requested, both in terms of the setback of the pool and the patio and the height of the fence. The
Thank you,
fence,
Mr.
as far as I'm
Thank you.
concerned, is 6 feet in this area.
Okay. Mr. Matlack, what do you have?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report was based off of the plan of property, the survey dated 2001. And the pool was sketched in on that plan and was very not to scale and off. Since that time, which was, my letter was dated October 6th, we received a copy of a pool location plan prepared by Seasonal World, that is the pool builder, I assume. And it looks to clear things up much better. The setbacks are clearly marked, and the dimensions of the pool, 14 by 32, look to be accurate. I don't really have any other real concerns other than maybe just some clarification on where the pool equipment is going to go, and there's an existing air conditioning unit on the side of the house, whether that's going to be moved or if that should stay in the same location.
If I may, we had that unit moved last May or June, I believe, when we upgraded our air conditioning system, and that was inspected by the town. So that unit has already been moved to the north side of the house.
Okay.
As for the pool equipment, I believe that that's pretty well indicated on the pool location plan that you all have.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Matlack, for your report also. Does any board member have questions for this applicant? Does anyone from the public have a question for this applicant? All right, I ask that someone move to close the public session.
Move to close.
Need a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. DeLomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGennaro,
Yes.
and Chairman Worrell.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Steinberg.
Right, the
Sum it up for us.
applicant needs a minimum front yard setback variance for the pool itself, which will be 8 feet back, and the pool surround, which will be 5 feet back, where 30 feet is required because Talmadge is considered a front yard, but in all reality, it is an unimproved street which will never be improved, terminating at Joe Playa Park. And if they want a 6 foot high fence to around the pool, again, because it's a front yard, you're only allowed 3 solid. Again, it's not really a front yard. It's what it is.
Okay, I need a board member to offer.
I'll offer.
Thank you,
And we
Anthony.
gave it before, it sounds like, across the street.
And a second?
Second.
I'll second. Thank you. Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. DeLomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGennaro,
Yes.
Chairman Worrell.
Yes. Okay,
One more.
good. It's passed. Correct? Congratulations. Thank you. Please contact Amy tomorrow and close out any details or paperwork you need to do.
Will do. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, our last case is up tonight. Mr. William Smith, Block 153, Lot 66.04, 8 Dune Road, Ocean. The zone is an R3. This is an application to construct a roof over the existing rear raised patio and expand the existing driveway. Also seeking approval to keep the existing pools, surround, and pool equipment in violation. Attorney, tonight we have Mr. Alfieri with us.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Salvatore Alfieri on behalf of the applicant. We're going to have two witnesses. Mr. Smith, the owner, very briefly, just to describe a history of how the property was developed in terms of some of the improvements that are the subject of the application. And then our engineer will address the few technical comments that were raised in both Jim and Ben's reports.
Okay, Amy, can you mark the packet B1, please?
Yes.
And I'd like to hear from Mr. Higgins.
Okay, sure. There are three variances that are being requested. One's the minimum rear yard setback for accessory structures. The ordinance requires 10 feet, and the existing pool patio is 5.1 feet from the rear property line, and the pool equipment is 8.9 feet from the rear property line. The site abuts the New Jersey DOT maintenance yard, and it's a wooded area of the yard, so I don't really have a real concern with these setback violations. Maximum building coverage, the ordinance permits 25% of the buildable lot area. What exists is 22.9%, and the plan's proposing 27.5%. So it's going from conforming to non-conforming. But again, a substantial portion of the existing building and the proposed expansion to cover the raised patio is open. It's an open air structure, and again, it's facing the NJ DOT maintenance yard. So I don't really have a significant concern with that variance. As far as the driveway paving locations, the ordinance requires it to be set back 5 feet from the side property line. The existing driveway is at an angle. It varies from 1 foot to 8 feet from the side property line. They're proposing to square it off and make it 2 feet from the side property line. It's showing the driveway to be 18 feet wide, and I think the engineer needs to discuss that a little bit more. I noticed that there's some very large treated timbers that are sitting in the existing driveway, and they're approximately 1 foot in width. And if these are to be edges for the driveway, it could be that the setback is actually going to be 1 feet. So I think that needs to be clarified, and the board needs to understand exactly what they're going to be doing with that driveway on the side property line. And also that it shows a small portion of the expanded driveway to be located within the Dune Road right of way, but there's no indication that the curb cut's to be expanded. And I'll leave it to the engineer and to Mark whether or not they can even expand the driveway within the right of way if in fact the curb cut isn't going to be widened.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. Mr. Matlack.
I had a similar concern regarding the driveway and its proximity to the property line. I haven't been to the site, but looking at aerials, it looked like there was possibly a tree that could be in conflict with the driveway expansion. So I'd like some clarification on that. And some testimony about how the driveway will drain, making sure that everything drains towards the street and does not negatively impact the neighbors. I had a question regarding the consideration that the pavers in the back patio were considered 50% impervious, and why that assumption was made. I don't believe that if they considered it, the pavers 100% impervious, they still wouldn't exceed the lot coverage. So that's not a concern, but I do want some clarification on that. And then any impacts to the curb and road from the driveway expansion would have to be replaced in accordance with the township engineer's standard details.
Okay, thank you, sir. Counselor, you're up.
Okay, Mr. Smith, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Smith, good evening. How are you?
Good.
Could you please raise your right hand and give us your name and address?
William F. Smith, 8 Dune Road, Ocean Township, New Jersey.
Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, you're the owner of this property?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you occupied the house?
Since 2002.
Okay, and it's due to the lateness of the hour, we'll try and be brief and just hit the most important points. There
Yes,
are
sir.
there are certain variance conditions that exist today that we're seeking to have approved. Can you just describe what those conditions are and how they occurred?
So the pool equipment was installed by Seasonal World where they wanted to put it, which I had no clue. It was a violation of setbacks for the pool equipment. I found that out from the engineers after the fact, after the pool was already built and constructed. The patio, the way my property line, which on one side of the property is 136 feet down one side, and the other side's 174 feet down the other side. So the property kind of cuts back in the way my house was put on the property at a slight angle, makes it where it was very hard for me to build this patio, which wouldn't look crazy or not have like really any room to put any kind of chairs on it over there. And it also made the issue with the patio itself, with the structure that's going to go up where the setback couldn't be 45 feet. I'd almost be right at my house, you know? So that's the reason why on that part. The driveway, I'm doing this in order to be able to turn my car into the garage, which when I talked to the zoning office, they said that many people have had this problem because our houses all have the garages built on the side of the house. So I'm not looking to cut the opening coming from the street at all or change the curb line. I'm looking to widen it because it is on the angle that you see here. Basically, it's not going to be where at the top by the gate, or I'm sorry, by the backyard. I'm not trying to square it all the way from there, going all the way down. I'm trying to just make it a little bit wider so I can turn my car into the garage. And so I'm not cutting onto the grass, which is mine, but really it looks like it's my neighbor's, of course, you know. I don't want to turn and make a rut, which has happened in the past. There is no more tree in the area. If you're going up my driveway towards my house to the right of the driveway, my neighbor actually got rid of that tree. If that's the tree that they were talking about, it's no longer there.
Yeah, and Mr. Di Lorenzo will put the plan up when he testifies momentarily so the board can see what you were talking about. That's all we have of Mr. Smith, Mr. Chair.
Oh, one other thing, the timbers that are in the driveway, those timbers are for the overhang in the backyard. I just haven't put it up until I get the variance. So they're sitting there for now, for the time being.
Does any board members have a question for this applicant? Does anyone from the public have questions for this applicant? Okay, next witness.
Chet, raise your right hand, please.
Can you state your name and your profession?
Yes, my name is Chester Di Lorenzo. I'm a professional engineer, land surveyor, and planner, state of New Jersey. I have been for about 40 years. Again, it's a late hour. I've appeared before this board before. I wish that'd be considered minimum, considering I do this about once a week in New Jersey.
Okay, that's good. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, so help me God.
Okay, sir.
Chad, are you able to share your screen and put up the plan?
I have the plan on my screen. I think you have to, someone's got to release it to me. Am I correct?
I gave you the ability, just you should be able to do it any second.
Okay. And why aren't you coming back on? Of course, it's going to give me a hard time now.
Well, we'll give it a minute and then we'll try and do it without.
Sounds like a plan, sir.
Didn't get anything?
No, I didn't.
I made you a co-host, so. Do you have the share screen button at the bottom?
Do not have it at the bottom all of a sudden. What's going on here? Nope, I've lost that. Would it be advisable if I log back into the meeting and for?
No, I'm
Don't worry about it.
pretty sure, Chet, that you can get your point across. You've been doing
Right.
this long enough.
So Chet, there are a couple issues that were raised in the various reports, primarily as it relates to the driveway. Can you describe for the board the condition of the driveway, how it's being proposed, what's being proposed, and whether there are any stormwater management impacts relating to the expansion?
Yes, right now the existing driveway is paved and it runs down to Dune Road. As the applicant explained, he wishes to widen the driveway somewhat so he can get into the garage and the side entry garage. We're showing the driveway being widened all the way down to the sidewalk. It was never the intent to widen the curb cut. So I think we can do a little bit of better geometry so Ben can appreciate the driveway better, but he really wants to widen the driveway to make the side entry into the garage more easy without going in across the lawn.
So that means you could narrow it as you go towards the street.
Correct.
Okay. What about stormwater runoff?
Right now, the high point is the house itself. It runs toward Dune Road without going on any of the contiguous neighbors, and it also runs in the backyard toward the NJDEP yard, also without going to the contiguous side neighbors. So it's running to the roadway and it's running to the other zone, being the 0120 zone, without impacting two contiguous residential neighbors. So the reality is the stormwater runs north and south without impact to the east-west neighbors.
And you, in your calculations for the pavers, you gave it 50% credit because they're set in sand, which some towns allow, but Ocean apparently doesn't. Is that correct?
That's correct. We gave them 50% because they're set in sand. They're not mortared in, and so
Right.
Can we go back to the driveway for a second? So what I'm looking at on the plans is a shaded area. That shaded area is going to remain?
It's going to remain, but I'm going to put a little bit more curvy geometry as we get to the sidewalk based upon Ben's comment.
On the side that's shaded or the other side?
No, the side that is shaded. The side that's
So
shaded.
what will be, so you're expanding the driveway and now it's 1 feet to 0 to 1 feet to 8 feet in, and when you required 5 feet, what's it going to be?
2 feet.
The entire, but the
No.
top can't be 2.
The top of the yes, we're going to cut back a little bit. You see the shading, we've cut a foot off the shading by the very south end. And the top right now where it's 8 feet, we're going to make it 6 feet wider, but I just indicated that we would put a little geometry on there so it would not be the 6 feet wider the entire extent. We'll get it
But parts of it are 0, right?
No.
That's what I'm looking at.
One.
At the top?
At the top, the existing is 1 and the proposed is 2.
Okay, so some of it's going to remain as 1, correct?
No, none of it's going to remain as 1. It's going to go from 1 to 2 all the way to the top, which is the most southerly end of the driveway.
That's by the house, right?
Yeah, by the house.
Okay, so you have a 1 to 8 foot side yard setback, and expand the driveway, and it's going to be a full 2 feet side yard, totally all the way up.
All the way up, but I'm actually when I get to the sidewalk in the township right away, I'm going to put an angle in there so that we don't have quite so much pavement there.
Yeah, but if we gave you a 2 foot side yard setback, that satisfies. It can be more than 2 feet. Pardon me?
That resolves the problem. Yes.
Yeah, 2 feet is what you're looking for. Okay.
And again, there's no the curb cut itself will not be impacted in any way by this proposed expansion. Is that correct?
That is correct. Did it just share for you guys? Because it just came on for me.
No, you want to try again?
Sorry.
I'm not trying to make this look difficult or make it look, like a crazy looking driveway at all. I just want to make it so the car can turn. That's it. The original owner before me put this driveway in. So I didn't do that where the top of the driveway is actually a 0 or 1. That was there when I bought the house that way.
Another comment for the applicant's benefit is the fact that when they staked this house out, they made it parallel to the side yard instead of the front. So if they would have rotated the house a little bit to the left, we would not have the rear yard setback, but whomever decided to set the house parallel with the most westerly side yard he exacerbated all problems with regards to any structures in the backyard. So I believe that Mr. Smith is trying to do the right thing and improve his backyard without impacting his contiguous residential neighbors. And any impacts will be to the NJ DOT maintenance yard to the rear of the property.
And both neighbors on both sides, their houses are actually turned at a slight angle away from my house. So it's not like they're looking right into my backyard either. It kind of like goes on a bend a little bit.
Should also be noted both side yards have evergreen trees planted, so there's really no looking into Mr. Smith's backyard.
All right, that's all the questions we have, Mr. Chair. Apologize for the inability to put the plan up.
Okay, thank you. Does any board member have questions for this planner? Does anyone from the public have questions for the planner? I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Jim.
Yeah.
We're talking about a 2-foot setback for the driveway, right?
That's correct.
And we're not going to worry about.
Probably could ask for comments from the public too, not just questions.
Any comments from the public? All right, no questions, no comments.
Okay.
I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Amy, roll call, please.
Mr. DeLomo,
Yes.
Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Ms. Tallarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
Chairman Worrell.
Yes. All right, Mr. Steinberg, do your magic.
Yeah, they're asking for 3 basic variances. Rear yard setback for the pool and the pool equipment, 5.1 for the pool and pool patio, strike that, the pool patio, 5.1 feet, and the equipment 8.9 feet where 10 is required for both. Applicant testifies that the pool contractor placed it where he wanted to place it, didn't realize that you needed 10 feet. And the site abuts the DOT yard of some sort, so it doesn't impact any neighbors. We do have an increase to 27.5 feet where 20%, where 25% is required for lot coverage. But our again, because it faces the DOT lot, I don't think Jim has any problem with that. And the driveway needs to be reconstructed or reconfigured so that we can make a right angle turn into the garage from the bottom coming up. And it required 5 feet setback. He has I looked like 0 to 8. He's going to make it at least a 2 foot all the way up, side yard setback.
And not touch the curb, not touch the access from the curb.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Steinberg. So I need a board member to offer.
Offer with the conditions.
Thank you. I need a second.
Conditions. What conditions?
What you just said.
Mark, it's 10:38. They're all conditions. No.
Okay, whatever you say. I got it.
Whatever Mark
Those
said.
conditions. Yeah,
I
whatever
knew what
said.
Mark
Okay.
said.
No, I mean, we don't have any specific conditions. That's what I meant. Okay.
Well, no, wouldn't one condition be that the driveway would be reconfigured so that it tapers towards the curb cut?
That's what we agreed, yes.
That works for me, yes.
Yeah.
I'm with that.
Sounds good.
Towards curb cut, minimum 2 feet, and not change curb cut. Thank you, Shwanda. There are conditions.
I was thinking ahead. See.
Yeah.
All right, I need a second on that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, sir. Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. DeLomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mrs. Tallarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
and Chairman Worrell.
Yes. Congratulations, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, board.
Please call Amy tomorrow to follow up with any details that we may need.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a great holiday.
Yes, you have a great holiday,
A
Sal.
happy holiday to yourself.
Thank you.
All right.
What else?
So that concludes our cases. Mr. Kirk, do you have anything for us?
No, thank you, everyone. Jack, please give me a call tomorrow. We can go through the process. I thank you, everyone, for your time, your efforts. I know it's not easy and it's a late hour, so I'll keep my mouth shut and have a wonderful evening and very happy holidays to everyone.
All right, I need a
Thanks,
motion.
Holidays, everybody.
I need a motion to
close.
adjourn.
Adjourn.
To close the meeting. I
I'll
need
make a motion.
A second, please.
Second,
All right.
third, fourth.
Amy, call the roll, please, one more time.
Okay. Mr. DeLomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
and Chairman Worrell.
Yes, good night and God bless and happy holidays.
Good night, you too.
Good night. Same to everyone. Happy holidays.